All right, good evening and welcome to the Oxford Public Schools School Committee meeting of Monday, August 22nd, 2022. The regular school committee meetings are videotaped by Oxford Cable Access and broadcast live on the town's public access educational cable channel 194, which is also streamed live on the Town of Oxford website, Cable Access webpage. Video recordings of regular meetings may also be viewed subsequent to the live broadcast via the town's YouTube channel, which may be accessed from either the Town of Oxford website or the Oxford Public Schools website. Thank you. So we are going to call this meeting to order. First on our agenda is public comment. Comments are limited to topics relating to school business. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address and will be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. Although the school committee may hear comments on unanticipated topics, discussion or action on topics not specifically listed on the agenda will be postponed until a future meeting date. So at this time, we'd like to open the floor for public comment. And seeing and hearing no one coming forward, we will close the floor for public comment. Next on our agenda, special presentations. Tara Trainer, Curriculum Director, come up and talk to us about the 22-23 MPSS plan.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hello.
Okay, so I know that you all have the MTSS plan. So just a quick overview, it is the role of our teachers to create high quality, universally designed, culturally proficient, evidence-based practices that are used within our core classrooms. So using MTSS as our guide, we are going to continue to strengthen our Tier 1 instruction. This instruction includes inclusive practices and accommodations as part of our core instructional model. In our plan, we not only address Tier 1 academics, but we also talk about behavioral supports and SEL supports as well. This means for us that school behaviors must be explicitly taught, modeled, and positively reinforced. In addition, instruction will continue to be offered to help students manage their emotions and to apply self-awareness to understand how to set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. This plan also reviews our processes and procedures at each school for how we're going to provide high quality tiered instruction, along with how we're going to support Tier 2 and Tier 3 students in the areas of academics, behavior, and social emotional learning. Our document ends with our DCAP, which is our list of accommodations that are expected in all of our Tier 1 classrooms as well. So that's the general overview. If I'm willing to take any questions if we have any questions.
Yeah, so members, we've had a chance to look at this pre-meeting, so thank you very much for that. Mr. Burke, yep.
Hey, Tara.
Hey.
So just when I was looking through and looking at each school
Yeah.
in the plan under MTSS academic, and
Yeah.
I think they all say a similar thing in the first couple of paragraphs, but it talks about all students are screened in September using Dibble's iStation math, all that stuff, and then using the scoring guides provided, they're then placed into groups, right?
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what that process looks like later in the year? So if you follow this, kids might be placed into groups for tiered instruction, and then they may test out of it, right? They may
Absolutely.
show that they've progressed and they can move out of it. How do we determine in December if there's a student that may need it now that wasn't screened in September?
So actually what we end up doing is creating 3 weeks of rescreen. So the first set of data comes from our universal data just because that's a great opportunity and we've got that information across the board. So then we have our interventionists and our Title I teachers that are looking specifically at that data. They create the groups. But then when a child comes into that group, a second little pre-screening is done. Then they work for 3 weeks on that particular standard and skill, and then that screening is done again. And then a child can test out at that point or continue on to a second tier 2 group. So it depends on the skill, but for the most part, these groups are very fluid. So there's a consistent moving about every 3 weeks. This happens at the K to 4 level. It's about every 3 weeks. At the K to 6, at grades 5 through 8, we're looking at a 6-week rotation. We're looking at a little bit longer because the kids they don't go every day to their academic support time. So we're looking at 2 times academic and then 1 time SEL.
Okay.
So, but then after a 6-week cycle, it will then repeat again.
Okay, just to clarify, because
Yeah, sure.
So you walked me through the process if a student gets identified
Yes.
and they have 3 weeks, they're getting screened and they're deciding if they have to stay or if they can go.
So, oh,
right?
yes.
But if we're
Got you.
a couple months into school and I was not initially screened in, but now I might need that help, how are we identifying those kids?
So we really looked at the program that we purchased, iStation, originally we looked at it as our benchmarking for September, January, and at the end of the year. But it actually has a monthly benchmark system, so we're going to strongly encourage that teachers use the monthly benchmark. It only takes about 15 minutes per each subject.
Yeah.
And so this will be a great piece as well. And then we have additional pieces. We're using ST Math. And then, of course, we just have our general, we're really pushing for common planning, common assessments, and those pieces. We're also looking this year at at least one designated person in our 2 elementary buildings that will specifically then also be looking at those in math. And we're setting up a 90-minute math block, 45 minutes of instruction, and then another part, 45 minutes of math stations. And in the 3rd grade level, they're looking at it more like an RTI model. So they'll be doing little, like, after they finish a unit, they'll take the same common assessment, say 5 questions on the same standard, and then we have someone that's going to do all that data for us, organize the kids into groups, and then, like, every 3 weeks in 3rd grade do that. So every grade level has their own little nuance in it, but their data will be checked because they all have a person that's designated for their grade level and for both ELA and math. So we're not letting one kiddo slip by.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Other questions? Mrs. Griffin, did I see you?
I always have questions. I guess my biggest concern is it sounds like there's a key person for the data, but it's not necessarily the teachers. And maybe there's somebody, reviewing all that data, and my biggest concern is teachers need to own the data, understand the data, and use it daily. So that's my biggest reservation in this whole tiered instruction, because constantly you should be differentiating for your students and kind of looking not just on who might need tier 2 instruction or tier 3 instruction, but who might need something extra and above if they're tier 1 students. How are we reaching our best and brightest? And I didn't see anything that was mentioned in this for the best and brightest.
Well, that's the expectation of a tier 1 teacher. I figured that's kind of like an unsaid. And we also do, we now have officially planned for K-8 data meetings biweekly for each grade level. So the interventionists will be with all of the teachers, including special ed teachers, in that space. So we're creating as much as we can time in the schedule to do that. But, I mean, we're hoping that's common practice within our classrooms, that teachers are just aware of their students, but then also we will have these further data meetings that will include the teachers.
So I know in the past a lot of things were unsaid, and I think we're all working trying to make things more clear for everybody, which I really appreciate. That I think this is fantastic. I think we need to make something clear. What are we going to do for the high flyers? What are we going to do for the kids that are excelling? I know the state has worked at investing time and resources and grant money for those students. Have we pursued any of that?
We did. Unfortunately, we did not get one of the grants that we wanted, just due to the fact that they thought we were looking pretty good. Outside of that, we have been pursuing different grants for different aspects, but we just, we'll continue to do that work, especially with the WIN block at the middle school. That's a great opportunity, and this year that will also then be taken into account. So when students are going into tier 2 and tier 3 supports, there will also be supports for students that would like to do advanced math, advanced reading, advanced science, and advanced social studies. That would be based on student interest, student reporting, and then also teachers nudging and recommendation for kids that we know love science to do the extra labs, or love social studies to do the history, and that will be on that 6-week rotation. So that while we have students getting tier 2 and tier 3 supports, we're also going to then be supporting additional students with their interests. So, higher level reading choices for teachers to run reading books, and then the teachers will offer those options out, and then students can then have the opportunity to do that additional work.
What grant did we pursue?
We pursued one for Mass Insights with AP. students. We were looking at the opportunity to receive $10,000 to support our high school in supporting high achieving students. It was based off of a diversity type of grant, and they said they felt that we had enough diversity within our classrooms that we didn't need that continued support. But we'll continue to look that way. And we still have money in our PD for ESSER as well that we can certainly hire the people that we were looking at to bring that diversity into our upper grade levels.
Have we thought of pursuing any of the gifted and talented grants?
I don't know much about those.
Okay. So I'm interested in knowing if we're doing that, and I would like us to pursue something along those lines for our students that do fall into the category of gifted and talented. And since we're doing universal screenings, I guess one of my questions is, what do we have to flag those students?
Well, I think I just want to interject. I think that's not necessarily, now we're going down a road that I think needs more exploring through the superintendent, through the administrative team. I think, at the high school, obviously there's opportunities for our higher achievers, right, our more advanced, to be able to access AP classes and higher level classes. I know as a middle school principal myself, that has been a challenge, because you're right, our focus sometimes is always on the struggling learner, that higher achiever we sometimes leave in the dust. So I think there's things that the middle school and Mr. Lucas can talk about, as far as maybe looking to strategically group kids differently and have the ability for a teacher in that differentiation of their instruction. Elementary teachers do it, right? They always have like that 3 levels of learners, so even at the middle school. So I think that's a bigger conversation, bringing in a gifted and advanced program that I would certainly love to have a discussion about, but I'm not sure putting Mrs. Trainer on the spot right now is appropriate. So if you don't mind tabling that, we can certainly get it on for a future discussion, but if there's any other questions about MTSS.
So again, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. If we're using universal screeners, that's just one of those common practices that occur in a lot of districts. And since we're talking about goals, that might be something that we look into. And I think it's really powerful data that if we're doing pre-screenings, that we do say, wow, this kid is a high flyer. And just as much as we differentiate for the students that need tier 2 and tier 3, we have to be cognizant of the students that are tier 1 that are exceptionally off the charts here. And so if we weren't doing that, I honestly think that we would be doing a disservice to our students. So that's just something that I just don't want us to.
Well, I mean, we're getting data on every student. So
Absolutely.
Again, I think
Gotta
to your
use it.
point, it's more about how are we using the data.
Right.
And how are the teachers, who you are correct,
Right.
they're the drivers of their instruction. So they need to be taking that data, whether it's your highest achiever or your most struggling
Right.
learner, and you need to be able to engage them in that curriculum at their entry point. So if a student's in 6th grade and their entry point might be 8th grade,
Right.
then we have to engage them at that level to the best of our ability, and that's a challenge. And again, I think that's a bigger discussion. I think that needs to happen at the administrative level, and certainly
agree.
with our input. I totally agree with you.
I agree. I just didn't know if there was a plan, so I
Yeah,
appreciate
I think
knowing.
it's something that we have to put on the radar for
Yeah.
sure. Ms. Cook?
At the high school level, do they assess the students like after the first quarter, like report cards? Because I know there's no like entry. Is this kind of just like?
Yeah, so basically the high school's assessed off of their grades.
Okay.
So like their academic performance within the classroom, and then teacher recommendation.
Okay, so if a teacher notices it like early on, then it's
Yeah.
something. Okay.
Yeah, so we're looking at that. I'm working with Mrs. Zernicki on that, on how we can, what are the numbers that are going to be the numbers that push us to, say that like this is a flag, this is a flag.
Okay.
So yes, so we're continuing to work on those.
Thank you.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so there isn't a universal screener for the high school students?
No, not for the high school.
Okay.
No.
And the common one for the middle school students is
iStation.
iStation?
And they still do, well, they have the dibbles, but a portion of the dibbles.
A couple things from me. First of all, the focus on tier 1 is great. I mean, that's where it all starts. I like the fact, we're doing it in our district too, is really going back to the DCAP and really peeling through it, and making sure that people are on the same page. Now, that being said, again, as a principal myself, one of my goals this year is really going to be able to hold people accountable, because we can sit here and we can talk and talk and talk. We all know that. But then if they're not practicing it and it's not happening in the classroom, then the accountability has to come in. And I think that is something Mike and I have talked about, we'll continue to talk about, is people need to be held accountable.
Agreed.
We can't just sit here and say we're doing it and then it's not happening. So I know I don't want to be talking negative, because I know it's hard work. But I think self-reflection is one of the biggest practices we can have in education, is looking back on what can we do different. How can we engage that struggling student or that person who's really just not having a good time, is not succeeding in this class. So that's one. You mentioned universal data. Is that just, are you referring to?
It means every child takes
Okay.
it, yeah.
So is it fair to say that going into this school year, when it starts,
Yes.
that we have already identified Tier 3 students? Because to me, there's no reason we should not have the Tier 3 students identified already. We have all the iStation data from last year. We have preliminary Mpss data. Like, I think every day is important for kids, particularly those in Tier 3. So if that's something that isn't happening, it's something as a principal myself I would suggest is happening. It's not too late. But those groups should really be identified, in my opinion. And I know I've asked you the question, but I keep talking. Have those groups been identified yet?
Well, we do have our data from last year, and so the first couple of days of school, that's a great opportunity for these intervention teams to be working to touch base with those kiddos, so to speak, and kind of get caught up. So yes, we have all of that data saved.
But there should be a plan for them in their schedule, whether it's a success plan, because I guess that leads to my next question. If you're identified as Tier 2 or Tier 3,
Yep.
they're not being pulled from core instruction, right?
No, you cannot pull from tier. You
Right,
can't
so
pull from
then
tier
those groups should be identified, at least Tier 3 already, right? Tier 2, I think some of that stuff you can get a little feel for the first several weeks of school, maybe even the first quarter to some degree, depending. But I would hope that the Tier 3 kids are being identified, early, real early, like now. And they
Yeah.
should be, like, that's work that should be being done over the summer, like planning for those groups.
True, and I definitely understand that your point and the concept of where you're coming from, and we can definitely use that data, but there's also the other piece of me that wants to make sure that the child's getting that Tier 1 and the opportunity for Tier 2 before we jump to a Tier 3. It makes me uncomfortable to take a child's score from last year and say like, oh, let me just throw them in this group right away, because they are going to be in a win block. Right, so at the middle school, they're automatically going to be in a win block and then start getting what they need. So at that place, you're right, very easily we could check old math, old ELA, get caught up with our friends, even just conversations. Did you read this summer? Did you work on your math facts? Like those little, get that stuff kind of going and
But
growing.
maybe the win block is identified for a group of students who have that similar need,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
I know, I just think time is of the importance, and I agree with you. Tier 1, so the Tier 1 instruction still has to be happening for kids in
Yes.
Tier 3. I mean, it's just,
Yes.
So I guess the other question I have, and it's something that our district is moving towards, I know this district was way ahead of the game, and I was proud to be part of it at some level, is co-teaching. So how is that going? Are we still moving forward with that at a good pace? Like, to me, that's the model like a lot of districts are looking to kind of get to. Is that how we're going to support some of these Tier 2ers and Tier 3ers with co-teaching?
Yes,
Because we want to keep them included. We don't want to try to be pulling if we don't have to.
No, definitely agreed. So at Chafee, there is a big push, and so they have been going through some training. They started last year. We had our first grade special ed teacher and regular ed teacher teamed up. And again, like you said, the data was looked at, determined who would best fit in that group. And then this year it was done for kindergarten, first and second grade as well. And we have co-teaching teams that are working within that model, within that space as well. So it's picking up ground again. And of course, that the secret to co-teaching is the relationship between the teacher and the special ed teacher. So it's finding the right combination to really make it work. We know that just sticking another person in isn't. We have to have the same philosophy, the same piece, and sometimes it can be tricky to find those nuances. I know the high school was really pushing and really trying, and it was really successful, but the special ed teacher who is currently doing it these past couple of years, she's now has taken a different role, so we'll have a new special ed teacher in that position. So it seems like we kind of go 2 steps forwards and then 1 step back. Like we've got it rolling and going, and then we've got a change in staff or a change in numbers of students that need supports, so that we thought we could do a co-teaching model, but that teacher cannot. We can't have that many kids in that group and then have that teacher out also doing supports while they're co-teaching. So yes, the plan is Chafee is going strong, and they are getting additional professional development through special ed to create good, lasting partnerships and help them support that process. And again, I think at the high school and middle school level, it's a little bit rocky. It's working in some areas, but not in others. And teachers have asked for additional co-teaching professional development.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to do it right, I mean, to do it really right is to have great professional development, for sure. But I think even where I'm at, it's like even a hybrid model right now for me, in my opinion, is better. It's more productive. And, you know, if the relationship isn't there, that's something, you know, I have to sit with the 2 adults and say, hey, listen, this really isn't about you two.
Yeah.
This is about all those kids in front of you. So we need to figure this out, you know, respectfully. Let's figure out how we can coexist and make this work, because it is powerful to keep kids included is big. And we all know that. So. Any other follow-up questions or comments? Yes, Mrs. Griffin.
I appreciate your co-teaching question. So how many co-teaching classrooms do we have at the middle school and high school?
I do not know the exact number.
I would love follow-up data on that just to understand, because if we're not staffing our classrooms with co-teaching models, then that's something that I'd like to advocate for as a school committee member, because it's a best practice and it helps us have that full inclusion.
I think the superintendent's writing it down.
Yeah.
We'll ask him. And
That's
he can
important to know.
You can send us an email, and then you can announce it at the next meeting too, if you want.
Yeah, I would appreciate knowing. And
I know there were quite a few in math last year. There was a lot of co-teaching, not special ed teachers, but interventionists were in every math block along with the teacher, pulling 2-tier groups at point of need at that time. But I don't have an idea of the exact numbers from last year, and I do not know what that looks like for this coming year.
And I would think that, like, we would have to have that depending on how many students receive services in a classroom.
Exactly.
Legally. So it would really be helpful to know, are we doing this with fidelity?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on what the services they're getting, but yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
right, but a certain amount of students, I think,
Yeah.
qualify. So if it's something that we don't have, I want to
Well,
make
yeah,
sure, yeah, we need
over
to
8, you need
have it.
another body in there.
Yeah.
So,
And they need to be a special ed certified teacher.
it depends how you write it in the grid.
Yeah, I agree. But I want to
Depends how you
make,
write
I
it.
want to make sure that we're,
Yeah, I mean,
Got
we've been,
people there.
the special ed department reported everything, you know, we were
Yeah.
audited, and, you know, they don't see any red flags, so, you know, and we'll hear more in next week or next
Yeah.
meeting.
Into
so.
September, yeah.
All right, any other questions for Mrs. Train, or anything else you want to add?
No, other than we did have, it can be really challenging when we only have 1 special ed teacher per grade level, and I think that's where our issues lie, right? If we had 1 that was a co-taught model and 1 that could be servicing additional IEPs, that's a slightly different story than,
We have 2 for 3 grades.
yeah.
So
It-
be
and so
thankful you have 1 in
know.
every grade.
I know.
And
I
you
mean, and
guys
we
have-
are
there's-
grateful for
there's
that.
lots of-
but-
There's lots of resources that, through ESSER, that are down here that you can get creative, you know, even temporarily. It's not long-term, but then we build into the budget. That's what we gotta do, is build a budget that's gonna sustain what you can put in place currently with ESSER funds, you know, so.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes,
Dave?
Mr. Burke.
Sorry, Tara, just off of what you just said there. Is it 1 per grade level, or do you look at caseloads?
Well.
So do they work
this
across grade
past
levels
year-
if needed?
This past year, we started at 1 per grade level. And the plan is because first grade was starting that co-teach model, and there were only about 6 kiddos on an IEP when first grade started. So we thought this was going to lend itself to a perfect
Sure.
scenario. And of course it did. But then the scenario starts to get kind of iffy as the year goes through, and now we're picking up 3, 4,
numbers go
maybe
up.
5 more
Yeah.
kiddos, and now they're scattered throughout, but that teacher is bound by the minutes on those IEPs. So that like full day support for that co-taught class then becomes, you know, a solid morning, but then they've got to kind of spread themselves out. So same kind of thing. You know, every year we do our best to plan for the students coming in, to group accordingly, to make sure everything's set, and then as the year continues, we get new students in, old students go out, and then before you know it, we have IEPs kind of floating around. But that's basically,
If you had a lower case number in a certain grade, your
Yes,
teachers,
we
or
could
they
then-
have the flexibility to move across grade levels?
within the same building, we typically do.
Sure.
So yes.
Okay.
Thank
Anything
you.
else? Thank you. All right, thank you, Tara.
Thanks, Tara.
Thanks.
All right, we do have some consent agenda. We do have some meeting minutes to approve. So the meeting minutes of August 8th, if everyone's had a chance to take a look at them. If there are no comments or questions, we do need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve them as written.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second that?
We have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Cook? Oh, yes, yep. Well, you can.
I
You
know.
can if you want, but you can
Yeah.
abstain if you'd like to.
I'm
Your
all
choice.
set.
All right, Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I'm a yes, 4 yes, 1 abstention. The meeting minutes are approved. Central Office Reports, Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Lucas.
Yes, thank you. You have a packet in your report, a memo for request for a stipend position for approval for pre-K through 12 mental health coordinator. This is something that would greatly help us out. We've spoken with the Oxford Education Association Union President. They've verbally agreed to it as well. Will help the families connect with the resources they need, whether students are possibly going out for hospitalization, coming home from hospitalization, or families are in need of counseling, and this person will kind of set up all those connections for them. So it'll be a nice transition piece.
Excellent idea. Excellent idea. Any questions or comments from the board? Yes, Mrs. Griffin?
So the position stated that it was a school-based position. What school?
Well, we would post a position, and depending on who it applies, it would be a district-wide position impact. So it doesn't really matter what school building they're in physically. It would be formed outside of school hours. It's a stipend.
And how many hours do you think that this person would be working for the stipend that they have a week?
That's a good question.
It's a big job.
I would bet
First
that
time.
the person would probably, when you divided the hours that they probably do now, just above and beyond, because you know how difficult it is, they're probably making like $2 an hour.
Yeah, I don't,
Would be
I
my
mean,
guess.
I'm not really concerned about how much they're making per hour. I
Right.
mean,
Well, it sounds
It
like
loo-
you're
it looks-
concerned with the use of money, so what I'm telling you is we're getting our
I'm
bang for our
concerned,
buck.
I'm kind of concerned with, are we spreading this person
Too thin.
too thin? It's not about money, it's about, this looks like a full-time position for not one individual, because you just told me this isn't school-based, it's
No. I'm
district-based.
sorry, it's one person for the district.
Right,
One position, one stipend.
so if it's one
In-
person for
In
all of our
speaking
schools.
with Mrs. Miller, the person that's been doing a lot of this, they estimated, they talked about what it might be,
Mm-hmm.
and talked about what it would be a fair compensation for it, and that's where they come up with the money. So,
So I think when they talk about school-based, they're just saying it's school, not like outside, you know what I mean? It's like school-based. It's in our 4 schools. So the
Yeah,
person, if
that-
they had to go above, it sounds like it most likely will be, it's almost like a coach, right, that's working after school hours? If these people have to work after school hours to make sure people's needs are being met outside of school hours, I think that's what it's talking about.
Well, I'm also wondering if I guess we should get out of the school-based or not school-based, because it sounds like it's district-based, but are we paying this person for transportation between buildings? I didn't see that.
It would just be it's just a
It's
stipend.
just a stipend.
No
just a
job.
stipend.
So the only reason why I asked this is because contractually, I know that if people do travel between buildings, then we pay for
Correct.
transportation.
Correct.
So I'm wondering, would that
Not necessarily,
occur?
it's going to be after school hours, so it's going to be communicating a lot with families and students, and by way of phone call, and if you have to have a meeting, you can have a meeting, but also by way of email. A lot of it's coordinating the resources with the families and connecting them. There not necessarily need to be physical meetings in buildings, because it's going to be after school. So most of the time, the kids will not be there.
And how many students do you anticipate being served through this position?
I don't know. I can
Okay.
find out.
Anywhere from one.
Quite a
to-
few.
Anywhere from 1 to
Quite a few.
1,800, however many we have,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it could be anybody.
And that could change throughout the
Mr. Burke, I saw you had a hand.
So, and I think Mike just answered it for me. So my understanding is this is a position where somebody will be sitting, making phone calls, having meetings after school to say, to make sure that this student that we've identified with mental health needs
Correct.
is getting those services.
Get the right
How can I help a
services.
family find those services?
Correct.
Not necessarily providing any of those services, but
Right.
more coordinating.
Yeah, it's coordination.
And that could depend on
Be different day to
number of
day.
students we have this month as opposed to next month that are in crisis or in need.
Any more questions? Okay, we do need to, no, we don't need to take a vote on that?
No, as long as you support it.
Okay, next, personnel update.
We do have a couple of other positions we need to post for. We're in need of a speech assistant due to our student enrollments and our student needs. We also need another cafeteria and recess aide at Chafee. We do have money in breakage to pay for that, so those were not in our original budget. We would like to add those and pay those from breakage as well, to get us ready for the opening of school in time. Otherwise, our staffing looks pretty good. We only have a few openings that are left. We're still looking for a high school special education teacher. The middle school is looking for a math interventionist, and we're still looking for a district school psychologist. But otherwise, we're in pretty good shape. We've been hiring folks daily, so seem to be in good shape so far. But there's been a lot of staff turnover in different places in different school districts as I talk to other superintendents. But we're in good shape otherwise.
Do you think we could have Ms. Bellhumer and Mrs. Zernicki
Yeah.
come up and just talk a little bit about their well, I know middle school hired an assistant principal, so it'd be
Correct.
good to hear a little bit about him. And then it looks like the guidance department at the high school has been beefed up a little bit, so it'd
Yep.
be great to just get a quick update if you don't mind. I
Sure.
hate to put you on the spot, but you both can come up together, just pull up a chair and can tag team. Appreciate coming up on spur of the moment. Just like to hear a little bit about them. That's exciting. Sounds like some good positions.
You want me to go ahead? All right. So with the addition of Ms. Hutchinson as the principal at the elementary level, both her and Mr. Key felt that they didn't need the AP position, and looking at the size of our building this year and the transition for the 8th graders, the AP position was graciously moved to the middle school, which is awesome. And we did hire Craig Kopka. He is, he was at Tantascwa Middle School. He's a teacher from Worcester, originally from Auburn, so he's local. Wonderful, seems to be a very sharp guy. We're looking forward, he came in today. We're looking forward to working with him. And he will be in charge of 5th and 6th grade, and Mr. Lavelle will take control of 7th and 8th. So I think it'll be good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
So, you just want to hear about guidance, or do you
Yeah,
want
did
to
you,
hear
well,
about-
any of the other hires too. I just,
Okay.
those kind of jumped out at me. 'Cause
So
I know
Justin
that-
Richards is the Dean of Students, again this year.
Yep.
I know that he started last January, and he did a great job, so we're excited to have him on board for the full year. We are splitting it up, where he's going to be in charge of 9th and 10th grade, and Mr. Truax will be in charge of 11th and 12th, along with other duties that go along with that. So it's kind of going to be the split for this year. When it comes to guidance, we lost Lindsay Ryan and Michaela Soros, and also we needed a guidance secretary. So we hired Rachel Stone as the guidance secretary. I know that she has children at the middle school, and she also was the cross-country coach at the middle school. So she is going to be our guidance secretary, and we also hired Olivia Gasco, who is brand new for guidance, and she seems like a real go-getter, so we're excited to have her on board. And we also hired Christopher Shen. He was at Bartlett for 10 years, and he's coming over, and he was a department head there, so he really knows his stuff. We're excited to have him on board here in Oxford. So that will round out, along with Tim Donahue, who is still here with us. That'll be our guidance department for the most part.
And who's Gina Gambasini?
Yes, Gina is going to be the adjustment counselor for ACE,
Oh, okay.
and she comes from Northbridge. She has some experience, a lot of experience there.
Awesome. Thank you. It's exciting. It's really good.
All right.
Any, I don't want to really put them on the firing squad because they weren't on the agenda, so.
There are quite a few other hires, too.
Oh, if you want to, anything you want to
That's
talk
how he
about,
looks
sure.
at me, that-
Go
We
ahead.
have a few others. I know for biology, we have Emma Hopper.
Me too.
We have Adriana Leading for chemistry. So they're both new to the science department. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Who else we have hired, but, yeah, go ahead.
We hired for 8th grade special ed Pamela Mooney, so she'll be joining us, and Anthony Grumsky has taken one of the math interventionist positions that was opening. Unfortunately, our 7th grade math interventionist recently resigned, so now I'm back looking for another one. But we have a couple good applicants, so I'm hoping I'll be able to fill that position soon.
Excellent.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
All right, that's good. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
All right. And feel free to, principals, is this the time for them to leave?
Yeah, they can go if they're ready. Yeah.
Feel free
I
to
think they're
leave
ready.
anytime you want to leave.
Thank you.
So goal setting and objectives. Maybe, let me take this out of, maybe I'll take this out of order if that pleases the committee. Maybe let's go to operating protocols, because I feel like we might be able to just get that off the chart quick. So is there, yes.
We're asked to be here for the goal setting.
Oh, I'm sorry, hang on.
Take that smile off your face.
They would impact you,
Oh,
I'll
so
tell
you
you
were
that
here
much.
for the goal setting? I'm sorry, did I hope I didn't ask them. Did I?
They've been here before,
Rob,
we
he
weren't
was
sure
like-
if you want them or not, it's up to you.
All right.
I have a meeting with them
Deflated.
tomorrow morning, I can
All
relay.
right, I'll ask you, do you want to stay for goal setting? You're more than welcome to. If you don't, you can go. Mike's meeting with you tomorrow, he can review it with you.
I can recap you guys
If you
tomorrow
want to
morning.
stay, you're more than welcome to.
Up to you.
Because I'll jump on that topic right now, or we'll...
Don't really wish to stay.
All right, then if you leave, maybe they'll follow you, I don't know. It's up to you. Wait, Rob.
I mean, no offense.
None
Chair,
taken.
may I ask a question?
Yes.
Normally, goals come from school councils to us about having a goal for the year. So does anybody have a goal that might have been talked about at your school council that you'd like us to focus on as a committee? That's usually part of the procedure.
Right, because that would have come from like May, though, was probably the last school council
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if
Yeah,
they develop goals,
I
that's
can't
usually
remember what the real
how
the
that
process
works.
is, to be honest.
That they give to the school committee as a recommended goal?
Yeah, that's why school,
We never brought that up.
I've never done that, yeah.
Put it on a topic.
yeah, it's just part of
Say, what do you want?
Massachusetts state law that's, goals are supposed to kind of come through school councils individually from each school, so I just,
For the
maybe
school
The
committee
school
or for the
improvement
school?
for the
Yeah.
school committee
that's a step,
to
right?
us. So like, who knows your schools best? Principals, parents that serve on the school council, they know the needs.
Right, and they
Are you-
created their SIPs so that we can
Right,
drive our
so
goals
is there
off
a
of the SIP.
specific thing that came out of the SIPs that you would like us to focus on as a school committee for our goals for the year?
If I can just speak one quick second, because
Yeah.
I was on the OMSAC where the SIPs were done, and we did not meet, and so that wasn't changed for the last 2 years. How did I not come? You did? Did we get your new SIPs? Did we get those?
We did get the school improvement
We did them
plans,
here,
yes.
we did them here,
We
we went
did,
over them
we
here.
did.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
So
I didn't know if there were any big
Sorry,
things
sorry.
that
Yeah,
came
so it
out of it
sounds
that.
like there's no big idea, nothing coming from the councils. Yeah,
Okay,
and I certainly apologize for having you come. I take a big piece of this because I don't recall how we've done goals before. It's been in and out, so I apologize that you had to come out, but thank you.
One year we did it at J. Anthony's.
Well, right, that's what we gotta get back to. I agree. It just had like a roundtable discussion, right, so. Thank you, I apologize again. Time is valuable this time of year, so apologize. Have a good night. Good night. Have a great start to your year too, all of you. All right, so it's something that I'll have, if I'm the chair next year, I'll have to do a better job, or the new chair will just have to come up with a better, a more fluid protocol, I guess, because I think it's been up in the air. So that being said, I would still like to go out of turn, look at the operating protocols. I think that's something we might be able to, everyone's had a chance to look at it. I think we probably can be in agreement. If there's any objection, let's talk about it now. If not, we need a motion to approve it. I don't think I have to read it, right, into the minutes or anything? So,
I'll make a motion to approve it.
all right, so we have a motion to approve the operating protocols for 22-23. Is
I'll
there a
second.
second? We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, call for the vote. Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so our operating protocols pass. Why don't we, do we have subcommittee appointees? Maybe we'll do that right now. So do we have to read through all of these, Helen, or can we just make a motion to?
You can just make the motion and refer to the list as presented.
Okay, so we have District Accountability and Curriculum Subcommittee, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Subcommittee, all for 22-23. Personnel and Negotiation Subcommittee, our Policy Subcommittee, and our School Buildings and Safety Subcommittee. So we do need a motion to approve all the members on these committees.
And before we make that motion, I did not hear back from one individual that we reached out to. And I think it was on the policy subcommittee. I want to say it was,
Did she express, or he express interest originally?
I called, yeah, originally, and then I called 2 or 3 times to follow up.
I think we can appoint them tonight, and then if they don't do it, we take them off.
And then you would send, just for clarification, a letter for them to confirm, and if they don't, then,
Then we pull them.
okay,
I'm in the same boat with one of mine, so if that's the process, that sounds great.
okay. I just want to make sure. I don't want to appoint somebody that
Yeah.
I just didn't confirm with.
All right, so we need a motion to accept the 22-23 member listings for all 5 of our committees, subcommittees.
I'll make the motion.
Motion and a second. All right, is there any further discussion? Call for the vote. Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So, and again, thank you to all who are watching who have volunteered. It's great to have community and staff on part of these committees, so thank you. All right, so back to 1, goal setting and objectives. So I know Mrs. Griffin asked Helen to print off
I
a
did.
couple of
Poor
community
Helen.
goals for a couple other schools. I know you just got your chance to take a peek at that, so I guess I will ask Pal Mina to kind of just give us your thought. What was your mindset behind
Well,
this? And what are you looking?
I honestly asked Helen for this for me, and I wasn't, I didn't.
Okay.
But by all means, people can look at.
But I guess, is there
So,
something
I
that you
liked-
want to drive off of these?
Well, yes, I mean, these were just a few of many that I looked at. And these were some of the bigger ones that I didn't want to print at home, to be quite honest with you. So that's why I reached out to Helen. But doing my homework, I went through and I looked at districts, some that I believe are high performing, and some that are also around us. And I was quite impressed by a few of them, and you have one of them in front of you. I give kudos to Chelmsford School Committee. Their goals were, I thought, top-notch and well-organized, and I really liked their layout. So that was one reason why I printed that. Nantucket, looking through it, I kind of thought that they had some similar things that might be what we're kind of looking at in regards to some goals, especially around academic support and equity, and looking at educational continuity and student participation. I was like, this is pretty good. This is, some things that we might look at as kind of an exemplar. I know, Boston Public Schools has a lot of diverse learners. It's something that they've been working hard. In particular, they look at data, and I love data, as you all know. So I was interested honestly, in their universal screeners, what data they look at, how do they identify students of need, and then what type of interventions did they put forth for everybody. And they use map testing, which was something that we used to use in the past that we got away from. But it was interesting how their goals, they really made it clear that they had a projectile for growth for all students. I think that's something that would benefit our community if we really created a goal in that. I didn't ask Helen to print out these other ones, I don't think, but I printed out Millbury. I really liked what.
Seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. I loved what they are doing over there. So, I mean, I know this is a lot, but this is how I prepare myself, is just kind of going
Right,
through
which is
everybody's
great. So
goals.
here's how I need to prepare myself.
Yeah.
I need a vision and a direction that you want to focus on. So in our goals from last year, we had 3 goals. And we really tied them more really around us as a board. So we should probably look at our 3 and then determine whether these need to continue or adjust, and then do we want to add? And what do we want our focus to be in adding as school committee members? Now, I looked at a lot of these too, and some of them are really, really good. Some of them were focused, more on, COVID and stuff, because it was kind of
Right.
coming back off of it. But, so let's just start by looking at them. The first paragraph, I just kind of captures who we are, what our task is, so if there's anything we need, and I don't know if people have the 21, 22 goals in front of you? Mm-hmm. Okay, I had it pulled up in front of me, so I just want to make sure you all have it. So our first goal was to create vehicles to strengthen the communication and collaboration within the district leadership team, parents, town committees, students, and citizens of Oxford, as measured by feedback provided to the school committee and increased attendance at both special workshop meetings and regular school committee meetings. So collaborate with the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Town Manager in connection with the capital budget requests in the FY '22 budget. Do we feel like we met that? We really didn't meet that? We kind of passed that along to our business manager and our superintendent. I guess I'm looking for feedback on that.
Hand up.
Yes, I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. I definitely think that we have connected with the Board of Selectmen, maybe more so on their part than on ours, because they have been
Yep.
attending a lot of our special things. I think it's something that we still need to work on, because how often do you still hear, how did I not know about that? Or, from parents, from staff, from community, people still say our website is impossible to navigate. You can't find the dates and times of school committee meetings. I read it on the forums. I can't say that for sure because I know how to find it, but I will agree that the town website is a challenge to find our information. So I think working toward that goal in different ways maybe, because the communication piece is key. And again, reflecting back on a lot of what Mrs. Griffin talks about is sharing more information about the students' progress, or lack thereof, with the parents consistently, so that they become more familiar with what those tests are, what they show, and how we use that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the communication piece has to remain a goal. Maybe tweaking it.
Okay, I'll take suggestions if people are in agreement.
I'm in agreement.
So we had proactively share information as becomes available.
So one suggestion I have for that, I think, we're working on that. Shrewsbury Public Schools does a phenomenal job of every meeting packet they have. If there's a special presentation, the special presentation is available for constituents at home as well. So I know sometimes we have difficulty where, we're trying to project these things so people can watch them or see them live, but having those packets as well for folks at home to refer to in the moment or after the fact, I think that would help our public comment. It would help people be more engaged and prepared. When we're opening up a forum for public comment and they don't have the packet ahead of time, how can they ask meaningful questions? So I would love us to.
So currently, I just would defer to Helen. So currently, the agenda gets posted, so they can see the agenda, but obviously the whole packet doesn't get
Yeah.
posted that we get.
It's on our on 2 places on the OXPS website. It's on the announcements homepage,
Yeah.
and it's on the school committee page.
So they
And
can
that-
see like the whole
Oh,
44-page packet?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you go to our
Yeah.
homepage,
So we just have to make that, so we have to come out, well, I know Kaylee has talked a lot about just, she will put anything up on the
Right.
educational access, well, not just anything, but any, things that we need to have put up there to steer people towards that, so.
And I know Helen does an amazing job with putting everything out there that she has.
You know what we could do, I just was thinking of it right on the fly, I mean, I think most principals send out, and I should have complimented her when she was here, but, you know, Becky sent out a s'more newsletter today.
It was awesome.
Oh, we use them too, I love them, they're great. So if everyone's gonna send like out a weekly thing, which most people do, like the electronic backpack, then they should just attach, we can ask them through Mike to attach school committee meeting this Monday coming up, especially if it's a Friday or whatever, see the attached agenda with the packet. You know, maybe that's a way to, so I guess what I'm hearing is, do we want to keep proactively share information as it becomes available and challenge ourselves to, September, go ahead.
So I think that under number 1, district leadership team, I think we've got some great communication going on there. So I think that kind of can be stricken. Now that's ongoing expectation as opposed to being a goal. The parents and the citizens are more who I'm talking about, and notifying. The other thing I wanted to say, what about our marquee board out in front of the high school? It's been scrolling the same message since May. Even if we could put something on there, school committee information is available at, and let it scroll and give that. I know it's everywhere, but the more places it is, the better it might be to
Yeah, I
have the
think,
board.
you know, I think once Becky gets, I think it will be changing more.
Yep.
Just my
Oh,
gut
no, I'm
take.
just saying,
But yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's another
So
way for
wherever we
us to
can
put
add
it out there.
So then
Everybody
you're
knows
proposing strike district leadership team off of goal 1.
if everyone's in agreement with that and believes that our
Everybody else in
communication is
agreement with
pretty
that?
strong with them at this point. Mike, am I wrong?
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Corey?
Meaning we
We have-
continue what we've put in place.
Right, now it's an expectation, it's no longer a goal. I kind of feel like we've got great communication going on with the leadership team. They meet with Mike weekly. They have I think they work well together. The lower grades, the upper grades, sort of tag teaming, if you will. So that's now, for me, an expectation that continues, therefore should be removed from a goal. I feel like we've met the goal and now that's,
I follow you. Yes, I
Okay.
have not had any issues with communication with the district leadership team
Right.
myself, so.
Okay, so it sounds like we're in agreement to keep goal 1, but to change the leadership team or remove leadership team. 1A,
Would you, if I may?
yeah, go ahead.
Would you think, though, if we're going to be trying to include more of, you know, a principal's some more letter or something like that, that the district leader should still be part of the goal?
okay.
Good
I don't
point.
know. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
I
a good
don't
point.
want to
It's a good point.
take them off and then they're like, we're done.
So let's,
No, it's an expectation now.
I
It's
know,
not- it's
but
no
I don't,
longer a
I
goal.
guess if it's not written that they're part of the goal, they might not be aware that they're part of the goal as an expectation.
I'd say we keep it, because it's not
Okay.
gonna.
Sorry.
Don't be
I'm
sorry.
riding the fence, because I think I agree with both of you,
Yeah,
but
it
I
doesn't
think
hurt.
it's not gonna hurt to
Yeah.
keep it. So let's keep that. 1A, we have collaborate with the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Town Manager in connection with capital budget requests in the FY '22 budget. So we talk about proactively sharing information as it becomes available, and then schedule a meeting with the Finance Committee by the end of November 2021. So that would have to change to 2022. That's just a common practice, right, that we?
Correct.
Okay. So we engage really the Finance Committee there, but we really don't collaborate with the Selectmen. We don't collaborate with the the Town Manager. Is that something we should maybe look to invite them to a meeting? Or does that, I don't know, just throwing it out there.
You
But
know,
this
they have,
goal is, sorry, go ahead.
no, by all means.
This goal is specifically about budget, right? So are we talking about improving that relationship solely for budget purposes, or are we talking about trying to improve the relationship between the local committees, the school committee and the selectmen and the town
I
manager?
mean, I would say
I don't know.
overall, the whole relationship.
Right.
Because I don't think necessarily some committees understand how the schools work, just to put it in a nutshell. And I think the more involved they would be, the more they would understand why certain things can and can't happen. And I think too, if I'm not mistaken, you guys just had a meeting, you're collaborating with Finance Committee more than November.
Justin and I attended the meeting Thursday of the Oxford Planning Commission. On Thursday night, we had a great discussion with them for about an hour. We visited with them. talked about the future of our buildings. They were very supportive, extremely supportive in repairing and making the changes we need to make. And they're willing to support us financially if we need to. And obviously, the buildings are town assets as well. We had good discussions about that. There was discussion about someday can we close one of the schools, and Justin and I reiterated we're not there yet, not with our population and enrollment that we have. So, but a very good discussion for about an hour. We had a nice visit with them. So we appreciate it. They invited us early in the summer, so to come.
Okay, so we have the second bullet on the 1A that says schedule a meeting with the Finance Committee by the end of November. So I think we still probably keep that and just change it to 2022, correct?
And
do we want to add a bullet or think about entertaining a bullet about inviting the town manager in and the selectmen in for a discussion, or just a
I think that's a great
connection?
great idea.
Sure.
In particular, because we have our SOIs out, and one of the biggest components of that is the partnership between the town. You know, if the Massachusetts School Building Authority was going to approve one of our projects, usually there has to be the approval of the town manager and the Board of Selectmen in tangent with us. And I know that they're aware of what we're doing. However, if we have a scheduled meeting, so like if we get an update, just so they're aware, you know, we might call a meeting at any time where we all kind of need to be together to make some important decisions. And there could have to be something where we have to go out, and it might have to be a ballot question.
So
Are you
why-
going to support us in this?
Yeah, so what, it's,
You know.
so
Yeah.
why don't we say one of our, like a third bullet we can have on the 1A is, you know, invite the Board of Selectmen and the town manager to a meeting,
Focused on that SOI,
or
other issues.
focused on town and school issues, and we just have kind of an open dialogue, I guess.
I don't think it would hurt.
If we say we do that by the end of December 2022, or is that too late? Because if anything was gonna go to the spring, like if anything needed to be discussed to be put on to like a spring, the town election, that stuff doesn't have to be on until that year, correct? Like,
March, April.
yeah, do you wanna come up, Justin?
Thank you.
Yeah.
With respect to the timeline, we usually have at least 2 meetings per year automatically in front of the FinCom. That's usually our capital items we present to them.
Yeah.
And then our budget, to present the budget for the upcoming year. Capital's usually October, November. Budget is more towards March. I think what you folks are talking about is more just an informal
Yeah, just like
meeting
an
with these
informal
folks.
discussion, a meeting, so, you know, kind of.
If I could kind of offer any guidance.
Yeah, please.
Kind of start at the end and work backwards. Like, what are you trying to accomplish by doing this? Are you trying to improve communications, maybe transparency,
Yeah.
intergovernmental relations? Yeah, I mean, it's something like that, like an informal meeting would certainly help out with something like that, you know what I
You
mean?
think by December of '22, like by the end of that month? Because then the budget talks start to pick up after that.
I think within the timeline, that should work. I mean, with the old language you have, just schedule a meeting. So I don't think there's any harm in trying to schedule something by the end of December, you know, maybe for a future meeting, you know, they're a new calendar.
It's a smart goal, we need to have timelines.
But if I can,
Help
Dave,
ground us, yes, go ahead, Claire.
Justin, if I'm reading you right, basically, there's a process already to discuss budget with these different committees. And
Correct.
you don't want us to get in the way. You don't have to say that, I'll say that for you. But we're looking specifically as a relationship building goal, right? So I don't know if we need to reword even that letter A, because it again, it says this is specifically related to budget. So are we looking to collaborate with them simply on the budget, or are we looking to collaborate with them to build that relationship between the committees? I'm asking you guys that question.
I do think we collaborate well already because of the budget. Like, we've been doing that for years. I'm interested in, like, I just recently learned that our town manager is working hard behind the scenes to get us all LED lighting and different things like that through our schools. I wouldn't have been aware of that if I didn't take the building tour and I didn't have, I'm like, oh, these lights are great, and I'm talking to Justin, and he's like, oh, this is part of the Green Initiative program or something that, I might not be saying it the right way, that our town manager's working on. That's awesome. And I think sometimes we just don't hear of all the amazing things our town manager is doing behind the scenes for us. And our Board of Selectmen, they do a lot. And to hear that is kind of neat. So it might kind of be related to budget, but it also might just be interesting updates or things that they might want us to pursue.
So can you, I totally understand where you're going, Corey.
Dave
So
wants
can we,
concrete answers tonight.
can we keep,
trying.
no, but can we keep that language and then add in like a, you know what I'm saying? Like something that if collaborate with the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Town Manager in connection with the capital budget requests, comma, the FY22 budget, comma, and creating partnerships with,
New initiatives.
Right. Well,
creating partnerships across the town or something like that.
just
So
quick,
you have it.
Between local boards. or
Yeah, so you
something.
have it in there, but
Yeah.
I agree with you, because it kind of just zones you in on those two things.
Right.
do we invite them to coffee and conversation specifically? I know it's
That's a
like
good point, no?
out there, but that would be a nice time for them to tell us about the Green Initiative and for them to hear what our constituent is saying at our coffee. You know what I'm saying? So if we're reaching out to them in that way,
Yeah.
then
And
it
I
is
think-
more of a relationship
great
building
idea.
type of thing, and they can hear from the community as well, not just us.
So we can add them to that.
Add that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
All right, so we'll add that third bullet. We'll
that.
keep the A language as is, but then just put a comma and add, what was it?
Good question. I don't know.
It's not about relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. Collaborate with Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Town Manager.
Connection with capital budget request, comma, the FY budget, comma, and the continuing,
Say creating partnerships between the school committee and board of selectmen.
okay, so you captured that?
And other town
All right,
departments,
perfect.
maybe.
All right, so,
Yeah, and other
Other
departments,
town departments.
which Mr. Lucas has done a lot of that with.
all right, so it sounds like we're good on 1A. 1B, engage parents and the community members in the workings of the school committee. So do we want to continue to plan our 2 school committee coffees, workshops? So if we could just change those dates to November 22, March 23. Hold budget meetings with parent groups and school councils in order to explain the impact of the budget on the district. That's something, do we capture that in our budget kind of open forum, public meeting? Is that really what we is that what we say captures it there? I don't know, I feel like,
I think in the past, if I may, where it says school councils, I know some years I've gone directly and spoken to the school councils. I haven't done that for a few years, or the PTO as well.
well, I think that leads to the third bullet, which, to kind of your point earlier, pal, of understanding what the councils are looking to bring forward.
Yeah, but.
Maybe it's good that.
But this saying budget and specifically, I know in past years when our budget has been tight or we have not gotten the funds that we've needed and we've had to advocate for a potential override or for potentially other types of positions, we went specifically to parent groups and school councils to get the word out that our schools have needs. And we also went to hear what do the parents feel like the needs are? You know, like just because we think we need X, Y, and Z, when we sat down and had discussions with parent groups and school councils, they might have said, well, that's not what we think is the need. So it was really helpful to have those dialogues about
Right,
budget.
But the problem is, like, to hold those meetings, we can't have more than 2 of us there.
Correct.
Because now it's a public meeting.
So usually it was a member or 2 of the school committee that volunteered to go. And sometimes, I remember back in
Right, so
the
I'm
day,
just-
it
I'm
was
trying
me
to
and
think about-
Cassandra Day.
Trying to remember what the intent of that bullet was,
It was usually for,
other than the impact on the public budget meeting. So that's why I was saying, it could segue into the 4th bullet point, where school committee members attend school council meetings. So if one of us committed to go to one of the schools, or we kind of make sure, if we get the update on when all these meetings are, and maybe we have a Google sheet where people just sign up and go, that way we have somebody there, and then you could obviously talk more freely about budget at that capacity, because there's only one of us there. Right? But I think the connection to the school councils, I really feel we should follow through, because we didn't do that.
So at the high school, is there a school council?
Yeah,
There is?
all the schools do it.
Yeah, every
I've
school's
never,
supposed to.
My dad's
honest,
on
Yeah,
it. My
Golden
dad's
Cook's
on
on
it.
it.
I was
yeah.
gonna say, I don't know as a parent that I've ever been notified of a school council here. I know about FOMs and PTOs, but what's it called?
Well, so you were like Simcoe, like you were on the, you've been on it, you were with me at the middle school.
OMSAC.
OMSAC.
Right, what's
yeah.
it called here? That's what I'm saying. I
Just might be the school council.
School council, yeah.
Oh, never heard of it. 5 years in the school, never heard of it.
And they're supposed to have elections each year.
Yeah, I don't
Every
think I
school
ever
is.
got the opportunity.
And one of the
to come
requirements
in
is
and
that the
attend
principal of the building run the budget through the school council and get
Mm-hmm.
approval in each of the buildings.
Right.
So,
So I think that really should be a goal
Tidbit.
we focus, that bullet point, school committee attendance at school council meetings.
And I love the idea that you stated where we sign up
Yeah,
and then that way,
yeah, so we
you know,
can,
there's
is
4
that something,
schools.
I guess I should check, is that something we can do and that's not a violation of open meeting law?
Yeah, no.
Not if there's only one member at each thing.
Right.
I
No, I'm
think,
saying us adding to a spreadsheet,
well, maybe at a meeting, we discuss the
as long
dates.
as we're not communicating
Does that make sense? If we have,
ahead of time.
how we can have a document, it can be added to a document after the fact, but publicly, we could have a meeting, we could discuss it then. And then it could just be memorialized in a document that
Okay.
is given.
So we'll need to get, and I can talk to Helen offline about that. We need to get the principals to give us the dates, you know, give her the dates when it's happening, and then maybe we can create a spreadsheet, and then every time there's a date. I agree, talk about it at the meeting, but sometimes the meetings are,
I think it should be organized enough where the principals know their dates,
yeah.
hopefully by like October,
Yeah.
for the whole year. I don't think that's outrageous.
No, it isn't, but I can tell you, I created all the dates.
Sorry.
I created all the dates last year, and they changed.
yeah.
No, they do,
Right.
yeah.
Snow day, or
Yeah, absolutely.
something came up where I had to get pulled to a meeting. and,
Absolutely.
yeah, so.
Right.
That's why I think if we have a working document.
Right, just a Google sheet that we can,
Along those lines, can I ask, and it doesn't have to be made tonight, obviously, but that we, as a committee, discuss what in particular do we all want to address? So we have a common discussion with each school council. So when we come back, we can have a report. You know what I mean? If we're all asking kind of the same things, and we're all soliciting the same type of information, then we can have some meaningful data and discussion around that. Where if we just kind of go in without a set agenda, then the principal's not prepared and the school council's not prepared, and then we don't have a really meaningful discussion. So,
Well, the principal has to create an agenda.
I
So
get
really,
that.
the task is to create the school improvement plan, or look at your current one.
I know what the task is at the
Right.
school council, but if we're going as a member, and it could be at any time of the year, right? We could at least have a little piece of their agenda, and our little piece of their agenda, we have an agenda to discuss with the school council, so we can come back with a report.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, right, because we will want to share out when we get back. It'd be like when we go over our committee report updates, subcommittee updates.
Yeah.
Same thing, it'll be school council updates. So, yeah, I mean, that's something we can discuss a little bit further, but obviously, I think,
Not tonight, but,
you know, we could ask about, you know, data.
yeah.
You know, how are things going in the school with your data? How are you using it? How are your resources being used? Do you need more supports? Like, you know, things like
It
that.
could be about, you know, the
But we
tiered
can
instruction,
create-
whatever
yeah.
we have.
Yeah, we can create like a template.
Yeah, and if we all ask the same thing,
Yep.
then we're all on the same page, and then we're holding people accountable as well.
Okay, so school committee attendance at school council meetings and reports provided monthly. The fourth bullet is subcommittees to provide more detailed reports once a month. I think we do a pretty good job at that.
Is that just a practice now? Can we
I
remove that?
think
it's an expectation.
Is it, so I think that one we can take, because we kind of control that expectation, right? So I think we can strike that bullet, Helen, so thank you. 1C, to improve the perception of the school committee by the community of Oxford, that as a committee we work collaboratively together and not against each other or the school department. Receive ongoing feedback from stakeholders, staff, parents, students, community. So that's something I don't think we've formalized. Have we gotten formal feedback from any of the stakeholders other than, you know, at the coffee shop or at the soccer?
Right.
Oxford Forum feedback. We get
And
informal
in
feedback.
Jay's.
So maybe is that something we want to
Constructive feedback.
create like a little survey, and
Probably
maybe
not
we
gonna.
say, we send out a survey, by, I don't know, by the end of April 2023 and get feedback from them? Or do you want to get initial feedback and then end of year feedback?
I think if we're gonna use it to improve our practice going forward, we should probably get it sooner.
Sooner is better, right?
Okay,
Get a survey out by
so what do you
November.
think?
I think that's a great idea.
So receive ongoing feedback from stakeholders with a survey sent by end of September 22, and then an end of year one by April of 23, something like that.
End of October, end of April? End of September, they've got a lot going on for the first
Yeah,
few
October.
Okay,
weeks.
end of October.
That's a good.
End of
good
October,
point.
and then 6 months later, the end of April?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
All right, and then we'll just have to, maybe I'll send something out at some point, just soliciting some questions from you all, maybe what you might, maybe if you're thinking of some questions.
Or we could bring it to the meeting and
Yeah,
to
why
do-
don't we,
We're
you
gonna
wanna
get
do
this out
that?
of here, yeah.
Yeah.
Meeting.
So bring your thoughts and ideas to the next meeting. Is that something you could just throw on the agenda, Helen? Thank you. Less is more, remember? People will be
I
more
think it looks at me
engaged.
again.
Bullets are lovely.
People will be more engaged if it's it's a quickie.
Yeah, our most successful surveys to parents and caregivers and students has been the briefer ones.
Right,
Yeah, no
of
question.
course.
Did you have something, Molly?
Well, I just feel like there's a little bit of response bias with the survey, but like, I don't know if that's just me and thinking about the stats, but I just wish that everyone replied to it, whether they had like a good comment or a bad comment. Like, I just want them all to answer, which I know most people, if they have a complaint, that's the only people that are gonna answer.
Oh,
And
no,
if
you'll
you were
see the
doing the
call. I
good
think
thing.
you'll see
You get a little.
Everyone will
Okay.
never
you'll get a good
complete a
balance.
survey. Never,
Yeah.
anywhere in this world. Never.
So,
Yeah,
hopefully it's
you'll get a good balance. And we'll certainly, it's be interesting, so we can share that feedback. All right, D, continue honoring and recognizing individual community members who give their time and talents to the Oxford Public Schools. I know this, again, I hate to break a tradition, but it seems like this really tailed off.
It died out.
So I guess I would, ask for your input, Helen, on that. What do you think? Is there something we should look to do different? I mean, I feel like it was a challenge.
We have been doing quarterly, 4 times a year.
Right, which is
We've gone down to 2. But even with the second one last year, it was like pulling teeth trying to
Right.
get
Yeah.
nominees. So I don't know if it's something you want to maybe do once a year.
Maybe principals could nominate staff that they see in their building that is doing something exceptional
If you
to
recall,
report back.
We used to have the
Not like as an award,
the
but
teacher of the year, and the principals really shy away from
Yeah.
making any nominations because they feel they don't want to be put in that predicament.
so I'm not saying like a teacher of the year thing, but I'm saying more of, how if we see, I imagine our staff does this with students, you see something and you're like, wow, that's great. And it would be nice if they see something that a staff member is doing that is above and beyond, that's making something great for our district, that we just give a little bit of a shout out and say, look, this is something awesome. I remember like the robotics program in the past, or different things that were happening that were above and beyond, that teachers were just donating their time and talent. And I would have never have known that. I mean, we kind of got it through this initiative, but maybe if it comes from principals.
Yeah, but to Helen's point, I mean, even though it's not Teacher of the Year, it's still having to nominate individuals in your building, and then if you say you do 6, but then you leave 5, it's like, and I think this is really, I think a lot of the nominations came from just not, from teachers, from townspeople. It came from different stakeholders.
That's true.
It just feel like it's kind of run its course a little bit. I don't know if we want to take that out, or maybe our goal is to come up with a different way to recognize
people.
Something. So currently, we have continuing community service awards and other recognitions as appropriate. Maybe our goal this year is to,
Just to identify a new
identify
avenue
a
for
new,
recognizing
identify,
excellence in the
yeah.
Oxford Public Schools.
So maybe that just D bullet becomes, how did you just say that?
Identify a new avenue for recognizing excellence in the Oxford Public Schools.
So
I don't really know what it is, but I think we really have to have those deep, meaningful discussions around data to see what our needs are. If we see if it's a specific course, then we are going to say,
Right.
we need more teachers, we need smaller class sizes, we need interventionists in that particular subject.
Right.
If we see it's a certain population of students, then we need another goal to address, a certain population of students.
Right, but those conversations need to be happening at the building level. So they need
Right.
to be utilizing the data, identifying, then it goes up to the administrative level, to the team, and then it comes to us. But you're right, so we would get, so I know Corey had a point, so let me go to him and then I'll.
That's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it follows along, pal. I think when you're talking about this number 2, I think we're in a good spot where we can separate this out now, and I think a goal centered specifically around data would be great for us. And I think that goal would include not only the academic but the SEL piece, and looking at data and looking at what kind of information we have about our students for those two things. And we can talk more about that, but I don't want to forget, as we separate this goal out, I think we also need to continue to have a safety goal. Something about, talking with the schools. I had reached out to Mike earlier just because I know we had talked about the SRO position at a meeting, sometime during the last school year.
Yeah.
I was just curious about where we were going with that and how are we going to continue to push there. So I'm wondering if there's room to break this out into 2 separate goals, and I think the data one is, and I am partial to the Millbury one there. I think they did a
I
good
am.
job.
I'm looking at your Millbury
With the
goals, and
data.
I'm like, I love this.
Particularly the data goal, I think, would be one to share with everybody at some point to say,
Yes.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Corey,
yeah,
and I agree with you, so A, talks about support implementation of the comprehensive pre-K to 12 social emotional learning framework that provides students with the skills they need for social and academic success. So then under that, the superintendent to present and review reports received from principals on social emotional programs, and is that where you want to add some academic language?
well, no, to me,
just
Dave,
break it
that
off.
A becomes the A of a new goal, right? So a new goal specifically about data, A being the social emotional piece, B, and we can switch A and B, but B being an academic piece, right?
Okay, so-
Or even how we use data in the district.
So keeping 2 as is, and then adding a different B, or you're saying
I think you're saying A
No,
is its own goal.
Yeah, I think I was making 2 new
So
goals and getting rid of 2, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
getting rid of 2, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
So,
because like you had said earlier, we've got stuff on the budget, we're doing
Yeah,
a
yeah,
good job with
perfect.
that process, so I'm saying
Right.
2 is gone, but the meat of 2 is now broken into 2 new
Gotcha.
goals.
Right.
Yeah, because really, when you look at the SIPs, I
could
mean,
you
of
pass that to,
the 4 goals that
Mr.
the
Canal?
schools have, one of them is on social emotional, and the second one is on create a learning environment that provides high-quality instruction, so focus on analysis and application of student data. So
So-
really, 2 of their 4 goals,
And we're taking that right
so
from
we're
them.
taking it right from them.
Yeah,
So-
that's great.
So what you're proposing then is to strike 2 as is,
Mhm.
and then create an academic goal as 2, right? An academic
I think we
Focus.
would either call it a data or a data and assessment goal.
data
Right.
assessment.
And under that data and assessment goal, I would have
You break it off.
break it into academic
and
and
B,
SEL.
social, yeah.
so, again, Millbury, I think, did a phenomenal job, and that's their goal. And it might be something that we might want to, draft up as a whole committee and then look to see if if some of their language would be acceptable to what we're looking at. And that one was assessment, and then Mr. Burke brought up safety, and they had a great goal about safety too. And I think there's nothing wrong about taking best practices from other districts
no.
and running with them,
I was
so.
just gonna ask him, I don't know if I should ask on TV, but can we get a template?
Oh, absolutely. This is on
It's
the
online.
website.
So you can go to, yeah, but that's the beautiful thing of being school committees, like every school committee
Yeah.
All right,
publishes
so
their
let's
documents.
drive back to, so currently, so we can, try to break the 4-hour mark tonight, and get out of here early, because the last two meetings, 4 hours, 3 hours.
Does that lead to another point? Do we need to, because I believe in the past we had a separate meeting to do this process.
Yeah, this
We're gonna
is
sit here right now and try and write all these
stressing me out
goals.
right
Well, no, we're not gonna write them all, we're just gonna have we'll have
Decide what they're going to be.
Yeah, we'll have a template.
Okay.
So it seems like one is all set. So one seems to be good as is. What we're gonna do is strike 2, we're just gonna get rid of all of 2. Correct? And then we're going to look to embed the assessment goal, and we can create some language. One of us can at least create a template, and then maybe I can share it with everybody. Yeah.
I suggest
And
that,
then we can all add something.
Yeah, you can put, you will be able to
Comment on it, yeah.
comment.
I think we, have to do.
Well, I don't know, you couldn't comment in it, you'd have to comment directly.
No,
to
so,
me.
if I may,
Yes.
I think what we have to do is, because we have to do this publicly, because we can't work outside the meeting, that since, I shared Millbury with you, if it's something that's drafted up, and then we could just take Millbury's language, not saying we're gonna keep it, but then if we all have that document in front of us at our next meeting, we could go through and tweak it. And obviously, it would be shared before the meeting, so we could take notes on it and adjust and have thoughts. I think
I'm looking for suggestions.
we'd have a common thing. So,
So let's identify the themes. then,
Yeah.
Right, so we're good to say, number 1 stays as is, so we're good.
yeah,
Number 2 is gonna get stricken, as is what we have currently, and we're gonna add an assessment goal for 2. And then we're gonna add, a social, so under that will be
Academic
A,
and social.
academics, and B, social emotional.
Yeah.
Now, do you wanna have a totally separate safety goal, or do you wanna have safety be a C? Technically,
I'm not sure it would fit under
I don't know how
an
you-
assessment and data goal.
no.
Right, gotta move out of there.
I would separate it out.
so we all in
But
agreement?
that's also my desire to have
Yeah.
a safety goal,
Yeah, that's
I'd-
fine.
if everyone else is
I
okay
think
with
that's
that.
a
So
very
how do you
important
feel about a
sign.
safety goal?
I like that.
So then, our third goal would be a safety goal that, does anybody want to talk just briefly about some ideas around the safety goal? I think the assessment piece is kind of, there's not a lot. I think we know where we're going with both of those. It's data driven. So safety, where do you feel?
So again, Millbury has a fantastic one that you have. And again, we could just have that drafted and
Yeah,
come
and
back
I
and
think there
discuss
are,
it.
sorry, Cal.
by all means.
Yeah, and I think there are pieces in here that are missing from what Oxford needs,
Right.
because Liberty's had that one for quite a while and has done some things that you can't see in this document.
Right.
But I think, looking at, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, we talked about Alice
Yep,
as being a practice here.
yep. We just had another training with OXP Day, all the administration staff, every principal,
Yeah.
about 2 weeks ago.
And Alice has been a practice that we have had since I joined school committee, because that
Yeah.
was an initiative I brought forth.
And the staff meetings in
not new.
October are going to be dedicated. Oxford Police is going to come in and talk to our staff, run a drill with just staff, the adults in the building, no kids in the building.
Perfect.
And then we're going to plan trainings in each building later in October
Good.
with the kids.
Good. So you're ahead of us, I think, on what we want to do
Okay.
with this particular goal. For me, one of the bigger issues was the SRO in that position.
Yeah.
Me too.
Where are we looking to expand that, and how can we do that?
Yeah, and I can speak to that a little bit tonight if it's okay.
Yeah, I'd
The
like to.
chair, is that okay?
Great.
So right now, we have a dedicated SRO, 4 hours a week that we budget for. It's about $8,000 that we budget every year for it. Officer Gray is currently trained and certified in this for us. We're fortunate, obviously, that our middle school and high school are located right behind the police station, which is very unique experience, which is terrific. Oakspeedy has been so helpful throughout the past year, there's no question. Most school districts are splitting the cost 50-50 with the police department. In speaking with superintendents around us, Auburn, Dudley, Charlton, Millbury, Sutton, Leicester, and Webster all have a full-time SRO. I know Millbury is considering possibly adding a second one for your elementary schools. So I think it is something we need to consider for this year for our budget, for our group. The officer, how it works is basically the officer is present for 184 school days plus professional development days to work with staff and students. During school vacations and the summer break, then the police officer then works for the Oxford Police Department full-time during those times, obviously. In speaking with Chief Sad, this is something that he would really like to see happen. With the date, you know, the idea being that we would split the cost. As a school committee, we would have to commit to funding our half of it and then let Chief Sad know that we're in, we'd like to do this so that he can budget for it. He would have to add a patrolman to his staff. Yep. So it's something to consider, and then it's going to take some time. Police departments are having trouble, and this was a conversation with the superintendents too. Adding staff to their police department is very difficult right now. So we might get lucky if we posted something that somebody really wants to come be an SRO and hasn't had a chance yet or whatever. Oops, sorry. And then, but it might take up to a year if we have to have somebody come from the academy. So this is something we want to discuss now and get into motion, but really commit to in our budget season if we want to do this.
Yeah.
And I can answer any questions if there's anything else on top of that, but.
Questions for the superintendent regarding, quick update?
Right, we've been pushing for the full-time SRO for quite a while, so that really has to remain, I mean, probably our primary goal is to get that done if we can. We really need that position. Then I just had a quick question.
Yes.
Do we do any, I don't know what word to use, workshops, training, education for our students on substance use, abuse? I know the athletes are required, but do we do anything? Because that is certainly a safety concern for students. Is there anything in our curriculum?
Go ahead, Mom.
When I was here, Joe Early came in and talked to us like once a year, but I don't know after COVID what they've done, but he would like show us a video and like talk about it and have people come in and just tell you like drinking and driving, but like also drug use and stuff like that.
Well, and vaping is such a big thing now.
That he did talk a little bit about that, but mostly like.
We had the Sheriff Evangelitis came to our school a couple times. It's a really good presentation.
And I was gonna say, I'm not sure that once a year is like a coverall.
No.
But if we're not doing something,
Exposure,
I would like to implement that.
Yep.
If, you know, as
Maybe
one
that's
of
something
our,
we
as
can
part of the
put
safety.
into the safety.
Right,
We call it
exactly.
health and safety goal.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a new state law?
Yeah, there has to be some.
You have to have training once a year.
Oh, just once a year, right. So I would like to beef that up a little bit if possible. Because I don't recall, other than being a parent of an athlete, ever hearing or seeing anything about that. Correct me if I'm wrong,
No,
because
you-
it
I
could
don't-
be.
I
There
agree.
is,
Have you all
There
seen
is
anything besides
something-
the athlete?
there is something they have to review and sign off
Yeah.
Oh,
when
right.
they sign up for
Right,
sports.
but I mean,
Yeah.
right, for sports.
But a
And you do have to
presentation.
go to something at night with your parent.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about school-wide, because
Sorry,
there's
yes.
a lot of kids that aren't athletes. and
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we have, so we struck 2 out, we're adding, assessment with an A and B category of academic and social, emotional, and behavioral. Then we have a new, goal 3, which will be safety. Our current goal 3 is, focus on personnel and negotiations. Become familiar with and utilize the updated superintendent evaluation rubric. Those are, again, I think those are job descriptions. I mean, we are his evaluator, we are subcommittee members, so I don't know if we really need that. Pleasure of the board.
That last goal? No, I'd like us to
Okay.
continue to maybe talk to the new OEA president about looking into IBB for future negotiations, but I don't think we need a full goal on that. Just wanted to say it.
There you go. Good one, Corey.
No, I think it's important that we get to that point. That's just a best practice.
Okay, so we'll strike goal 3. So is there any, so looking at some SIPs, like I said, I think we've captured 2 of the 4.
Can I,
Yep, go ahead.
goal 3 though, I think is important, and I'm gonna,
Our current goal 3?
yeah, but for maybe not the negotiation per se, but focusing on personnel. So let me backtrack, because I'm gonna try to find it from somewhere else. I saw a goal 3 from, and you might wanna write this down,
Yep.
I think it was Nantucket Public Schools. You guys might actually have that in your packet.
Hold on, I'm
And-
gonna take a vote. And then I've been waiting, sorry.
I'd like to go to Nantucket.
Take a boat, right? Don't you need to take a boat to get to Nantucket?
Yes,
So let me get on the boat. Sorry.
that's okay.
Go ahead. What do you
Human
got?
resources and professional development. So they had a school committee who shall ensure that the district identifies, attracts, and recruits effective personnel and structures an environment to support, develop, improve, promote, and retain qualified and effective personal staff who are successful in advancing achievement for all students. I thought it was an interesting goal. I mean, I'm sure they have to recruit a lot more than us because they're so far away, and, you know, to get somebody to go move to an island.
Go live at the beach?
Yes, is-
Sign me up.
And which one was that again? What number?
I think it's on
That's their goal
page,
3.
We don't have.
Their
a
goal 3 in the
page.
Nantucket, yeah.
Right, I don't know what page they're not numbered.
But I thought it was interesting because they talked about, you know,
You in Nantucket school?
qualified, you know, we're looking for highly qualified staff. We have a lot of highly qualified staff, but I think right now, it's hard to find the best and to keep them.
So are you
I just thought that this
posing
was
a fourth goal that's around, I mean, because there are some, you know, I really like the number 2, the supervision and evaluation.
I really like
Some of it,
1C.
you know, some of it again, is
what did you like?
1C.
1C.
some of
I don't
it
see
stretches out of our responsibilities.
sorry,
though.
B.
I don't want to cross the line.
Not C, right? Updates on professional teacher status. I think it's
Yeah.
important for us to be able to know and recognize that. Like, there are parts of this that are great, but then I think there are other parts, as Dave said, slippery slope.
Yeah. It's
Right,
And a lot of
and
this
again,
is, as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, oh, is that even legal? But again, that's,
right, and so when we take this, right, as a draft, I'm not saying that this is our goal. I'm just saying that this is a template, this is a model. It's somewhere to start. We could take this at our next meeting, and we could go through this, and we could say, okay, this makes sense for our district, and this doesn't, we should strike this. But there is some interesting stuff about annual updates about professional teacher status and things like that, and it is helpful for us to know if we have highly qualified staff in every position, and if we are staffed right, for example, with, when we discussed before this evening, those co-teaching classrooms. I mean, if we hear that we have little pockets of need, or we're stretching our staff too thin, I want to advocate that we do the opposite. I don't want to hear that, for example, one special ed teacher is covering a caseload for, that's just unacceptable. And the only way that we're ever going to know about this is if we make it a goal and we dig deep and ask those questions so we know that. Otherwise, I hate to say it, sometimes I'm clueless. I sit at this table and then I hear things and I'm like, I never knew that. I should have asked that question. Why did I not think to ask that? So here's other committees that are asking those very vital questions. And again, we'll go through this at another time, but having one about human resources and professional development and staff, and I think it will help us a lot to ask those meaningful questions and make sure that we have the appropriate staff.
All right, is there any other, so we have 3, I put the 4th one potentially.
Potentially.
You know, I think a lot of this is, you know, driven through Mike's leadership, and it's our job to hold him accountable if these things aren't happening, but we also do need to identify the things that we're looking for, so we'll have to, you know, kind of tread carefully around it, I think, but it's a good point. And, you know, I just want to know, I mean, I know Nantucket is a great place to go, but is everyone retired down there? Because this is like on the committee. This is a beefy goals. I mean,
I know we've had applicants from Nantucket come here to apply for jobs, and I gotta tell you, I've always been impressed by the work
a
that,
lot of goals.
yeah,
But again, I think a lot of it is embedded in the work that the leadership team, the teachers are doing, and ultimately, you know, Mike hears me say this all the time, it falls on him. He's in
it does, but
charge.
it falls on us to
If
make
we're not
sure.
asking the right question, so we can
Right.
have it in a document, pal.
Right,
Let's face it, how many times did we look at these I mean, we review them periodically. I try to take a peek to make sure we're meeting what we need. But these are questions that we should, in getting onto agendas, like traditionally in the past, like when I first got on the board, things were done because we checked in on this, we checked in this
Right.
date, like, so if these are things we want, if we want certain pieces of information, we just get it into our
Right.
I know,
meetings to ensure
know.
that we're getting it.
right,
So
and
maybe this is data we want as part of his evidence. You know, Mike, as part of your evidence, can you tell us, you know, this, that? And we really can be clear with him this year what we're looking for exactly.
Right, and maybe you don't want it as a goal, but I think it was
No, it's-
very meaningful.
yeah.
I liked, honestly,
Agreed.
their student support goal. I thought that this was exceptional as well. I mean, it's important to know these things and to make sure that these things are in place.
Oh, I agree,
in
it's well
Nantucket.
done. I mean, it's well done.
And I wouldn't ask these questions without it being a goal. I mean, if somebody came tonight and put me on the spot and said, do you have the answers to all these questions? I wouldn't. I haven't asked them. But if it's a goal and we're asking for these things and we're holding the district accountable, then I think we're gonna see improvement if there needs to be improvement. Just like if we have a goal that is around, which we're developing now, which I think is awesome, about assessment and, you know, curriculum and things like that, this is how we're gonna drive effective change for our students that's gonna be meaningful. It's through these types of really meaty goals, and I think that's what I know has been lacking from my experience on the committee. That's why I went crazy, and I said, I'm gonna look at
But
everybody's goals.
there's language in here, pal, too, that like this, so on.
Right.
Goal
Some of them might
2,
be overreaching.
Goal 2, student
Right.
support, Roman numeral 2, the school committee will ensure
Right.
that the district and school staff members work to close proficiency gaps by using aggregated and disaggregated data on student participation. Like, so if somebody comes back to us and says, you didn't do this, so you know what I mean? Those are things that those are things that we rely on the district administration.
Right. But that
to
is our
ensure that's happening.
responsibility.
But it's our responsibility to ask those questions.
But it is our responsibility
Correct.
to ensure that we're closing the gaps. It is.
But again, it says will direct administration. We can't
Yeah.
direct administration. That's not within
So-
our purview. That's
If-
on Mike.
I guess we could ask, how would we direct administration? Wouldn't we direct administration by advocating for certain things that if we know that, for example, there's a gap, hypothetically, our ELL population, we see a big gap in their performance. Wouldn't we all advocate then to close that gap by maybe hiring for a position there?
But the expectation that we would know all of those details.
Well, that's why we
is-
have to.
But this, we don't direct the administration. That's what Mike does, so we need to be sure.
But that's why this is a goal to tell Mike that.
But I'm just telling you, I will never be comfortable with writing a goal that says we will direct, because we can't direct that.
Actually, as a school committee, we set goals to help our superintendent know where we want him to go. That's why we make our goals. So maybe direct is too firm of a word, but when you're setting a goal, you're giving a direction to your superintendent and the district. That's
Yeah,
what
but
goals are
It's
about.
also approving his goals and
I agree.
asking him to put what we need. I know Corey
I
has a
agree.
comment.
Yeah, I think when you look at this, it's more about, and I like, and some of the wording is tough, but I think it's
Yeah.
more about checks and balances.
Yes.
Right? And so if you look at the evidence, just on the one you were talking about there,
Yeah.
Dave, on student support, Roman numeral 2, if you go to the evidence is not us going into the schools and making sure these things are happening.
No.
It's not us telling them which measures to use or which,
No.
curriculum to use. It's making sure they present to us
Yeah,
in a
right.
timely manner of how are you doing this. So I think that's when they talk about ensuring,
Right.
to your point, it's not, looking at this one, it's not us telling them how to do it.
Agreed,
It's
that's how I interpret it.
checking
as
in
a-
on them.
Right, that's how I interpret it as a principal, and we can write that into the goal to our, the goal that we're adding under the 2A, the academic piece, right? We can embed a lot of that language in there. We just have to be careful how we say it, because someone will interpret, ensure that you're doing that for my child, and if we don't, That's-
But I think
that's
to
all.
Pal's
That's what
point,
we
this
care.
is about, are we as a school
Absolutely.
committee checking to make sure this
That's
stuff
why I
is-
think we were all saying the same
Right.
thing. I think we
I
just
think we
need to
are.
word it
Right.
Yeah.
appropriately.
And I would like, you know, if I was on the other side of the table and I was one of the constituents and I wasn't as a committee, I would want to say, are you ensuring that you are looking at the MCAS data, the access data, you know, SATs? I'll be honest with you, I don't remember looking at all of our SAT data this year, you know? So, yeah, I want to ensure that we're getting all those reports.
Right, so all you have to do is say, like, the school committee will, I don't want to, I just had the word to it, I lost it, so, yeah, help me out, Molly.
Well, I don't know what you're trying to say, but I just want to say SAT data is just, I don't think something that we should look at, because a lot of schools are just, don't even take SAT scores anymore. They're shying away from that. And I'm personally not a huge fan of standardized testing, because I just don't like that. And I know, like, the schools I applied to didn't even look at SAT scores, and that's a huge thing they're shying away from, because everyone's just learning differently, and I know it's like college essay based. But I know, like, MCAS and stuff, you have to look at that, but, like, SAT, I think it's a terrible judgment of.
But there's something to say about the SAT scores. If you see that, you know, the district is knocking it out of the park with literacy, for example, or math.
Yeah,
That, I mean,
get that
it, and if it correlates with MCAS or it doesn't correlate, right, then you at least you say, okay, you know, our kids were really struggling here, 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 but by the time they took the SATs, that was a bright light. They were doing well. So you could see growth.
Yes.
So I think it's hard, like, we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. That's why I think it's meaningful to look at as much data as you can. So throwing the SATs out, I wouldn't advocate for that. I would say still look at that, but that's just my opinion.
All right, so it looks like we have 4 goals. One pretty much done. The second one probably just needs to add some language into A and B, but I feel pretty good
That's
that.
the assessment
Yeah,
goal.
the assessment goal. Third goal will be safety. And fourth potential goal, like a human resources, professional development, and maybe we can pluck some language from some of these documents. So we will have a version of I don't think it would be against the Roberts law, rules to have me create a document of some of what we've captured tonight, and then share it, right?
Yeah,
Just-
you can send it out, they just can't reply.
Right,
To discuss
But
it. the
can-
next
to
meeting.
discuss at the next meeting, so you have something in front of you, yes.
So you're saying a Google Doc that we could
Just view only,
view only, okay. Because
And
we
then you
can't
could
individually put in any
then you could
information.
send a comment to me,
Or you could send a comment just to Dave,
right, just to me.
right. That's what I'm asking. Would we have any
know.
input? Would we be
I would
able
defer.
to
I don't,
say, because a Google document, typically we would all be able to go in there and add comments, which I know we can't do
Right,
because
I
then
would take
everyone
that
sees them,
feature
but
out.
if he's sending it out, what's the point if I can't give him a comment? Like, goal 2, I would like to add blah, 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 but I'm only sending it to Dave. So he's taking that information and then maybe bringing forward stuff that was suggested by members, is that?
That's fine.
I don't think it's.
As long as we don't reply all
Yeah.
or have a conversation, right?
He brings it to the next meeting, we discuss the
Yeah.
Exactly, right,
I would just add it to the document.
right. On your end, not
Yeah.
with, shared with us.
Yeah, I would just
right,
say, this was added on whatever.
Right.
That way it gives us something that's, maybe
so,
not from scratch.
Right, and a little time to look at it and think about it and not have to think this late at night.
Thought?
yeah, I was just trying not to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
You know I struggle with that.
No, you've been great.
So, everybody has the Nantucket packet, I know that, right? And you now have the Millbury
Yeah,
packet.
I wish we
I
had this
just pulled
one.
up the
I'm
Millbury
sorry.
packet. It's really easy to find. You have a phenomenal website out there.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, there it is. Look at that tap.
So I would advocate that we look at those two things when you're like kind of smashing things together and starting anew with our draft.
It's 18, 19. Is that what
Well, again,
Wait,
I took whatever I could find, and just because
Yeah, no, it's a great-
some documents were dated, when I looked at it, I said, this is still meaningful. This could still help us
Yeah,
tremendously.
no, I think it's great.
Some people already have their 22, 23 goals out.
All right, and, oh, go ahead, sorry.
One other thing that, I mean, this is the Chelmsford thing. Committee involvement in strategic plan development. That's from Chelmsford. We need a strategic plan for our district. Do we want to have a goal about our strategic plan? I defer to our superintendent.
Wasn't that part of your?
Yep, we have a
Work this
plan
year.
to put together a team for our district improvement plan. It'll be all the principals, our central office administrators as well. We'll be looking for a member or two from school committee to join it. Some parents and some high school students will be part of that team that will do that. We're going to work with a consultant, and there'll be 7 different days that we work with her. It'll be great professional development for our administration team. We're looking forward to it. Out of that will come a district improvement plan that'll hopefully reflect the needs of all stakeholders in our community. So, goal is to have that done by spring so that the new school improvement plans can then all connect with the district improvement plan. Kyle?
So I'm just gonna kind of back you up. Anytime that we have a consultant come in the district, are we not supposed to have a discussion first about who the consultant is and if we agree to hiring said consultant? Because I feel like this has happened a lot.
No, we discussed
did
it
discuss
last meeting.
Yeah.
That we were gonna, refresh my memory, I apologize. Who was the consultant that we decided we were gonna hire?
He didn't give a name, but we approved him doing it. I don't know if it came to a formal vote. I would have to.
So I'm wondering who are we going with? And normally there's some discussion about what consultant we would want to choose. I mean, that's just my experience in the past. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I like to kind of know, like, how did we pick said consultant and why was that consultant the person that we chose, if one was already chosen?
I will defer to Mike in a minute.
And what was
but
the
again,
cost? Because sometimes we discuss cost too,
Sure.
as part of
Yeah.
our budget.
You know, again, for me, I mean, for me personally, as a school committee member, I have to empower Mike to do a job.
Not empowering.
Absolutely. It's his job. His
I'm not
job-
saying I'm not empowering him to do it. I just want to know, like, the financial cost, who is it, and how do we make an informed decision that that's the best consultant?
But it's not our informed decision, it's his decision. He's the superintendent of schools.
He can make a decision, but when it comes to financially, the cost of consultants, in past practice, I remember us discussing if we approved to have a consultant to come in for anything. Like, I think a lot of that has kind of occurred this year. We get a consultant, like I heard about futures, but I didn't remember us as a committee discussing that we were going to necessarily hire futures until after the ball got rolling and they were already hired. And normally, if anything's done like that, the protocol that have experienced in the past is as the committee discusses what consultants they want to hire and what amount of money that could cost, because that's part of our budget. And so we are fiduciaries, we're responsible for the budget, that's part of our oversight. Not, just like if we were gonna have a different, legal representative, they present to us, and then we agree that we wanna go with this representative or that representative. There's a presentation. Just like if we were going to go with a school physician, we have a discussion of who's the school physician that we're hiring, from what cost or not. I know you guys might not have that experience.
Right, I don't
A
recall
lot of you
ever-
are kind of newer.
5 years.
Yeah, well,
No. I don't, I mean,
yeah.
no, I don't recall any of that, and so the financial piece of that is our responsibility, isn't that captured under a larger umbrella? That we approve the number, we don't dictate how they spend it, or by
Right,
what school,
so-
so consultation, or trainings, or whatever is all captured under an item that we approved, of a financial number,
Right.
not necessarily how that number is spent.
So do
I
you
don't-
remember a financial number being put out there for consultants for special ed, a consultant for this or something for that? Do you remember that being part of the budget?
I don't have the budget in front of me,
know.
but I will go look at it, because I do know right where it is, but
Justin, can you speak to the,
I do.
I don't know if you can speak to what Val was just asking, when we had,
yeah, I'm sure it's in there. Can I see?
Yeah, absolutely.
we had, like, what was the latest with the special ed? It was through futures, is that what it
Yeah,
was?
futures, yes.
So we paid
They're
through
coming in.
that. Do you recall where we got paid through that? I think it was through the ESSER money, correct?
No, I think that came from a grant,
Or
didn't
did
it?
it come from a grant?
I think it initially was going to come from a grant. I'd have to research that one.
Sorry.
But just to back up a little bit, sometimes we do put consultants into the budget. Sometimes, based on student need, something comes up, we might have to call somebody else in. I honestly don't recall the committee approving every consultant that comes through. However, I'll defer to the committee. It's you folks' budget.
Yeah. Well, the superintendent, I'm just looking at the meeting notes, so the superintendent last meeting, some of the next steps include creating a comprehensive capital improvement plan for the next 10 years and using the entry findings and other reports and resources to create a new district improvement plan to present to the school committee in the spring of 2023. So that's just captured the meeting. I don't know the minutes, I don't know all the discussion, but I do remember Mike talking about it, so I will defer to you. What were the next steps after that meeting? Did you reach out?
Yes, so Ruth Whitner is a former superintendent who specializes in doing this with small towns like ourselves in Oxford. I met her at a new superintendent induction program. She was the most affordable, and I thought it was a perfect match for us after sitting down and discussing it with her, then having a conversation this summer on the phone as well in quite detail, what it would be, what the plan would be, sharing that with us. Again, we were looking for something that was affordable. It's $7,000. It's going to come out of a grant money, the grant monies that we have, so it's not out of the general budget. But she'll facilitate that for us, and again, it'll be great professional development for our administration team going forward as we look for our goals for the next 3 years.
What grant would it be coming from?
I'll have to find out from Tara.
Okay.
It's one of those grants.
If I could just speak to this, so I looked up under student services, and one of the things that you had mentioned was the
Future.
physician.
Yes, that I know we're budgeting. Every year we budget that.
But then they don't come before us, and we decide who the person is. That's
Right.
what this
But in
discussion
the,
is.
like, we've been going with UMass traditionally forever. That's been our practice. However, if the committee said, hey, we should look into looking for a different school physician and we should shop around, like, it happens, just like, so years ago,
Yeah,
we
that's
looked.
where I feel like that's not our job.
But sometimes, like, for example, again, I'll go back to our legal representation. There have been years that we have said, you know what, we're gonna look into looking for different counsel. And I mean, some of you might not remember this,
No, I
but,
remember the lawyers.
right.
Absolutely.
So it does happen where, it is our responsibility
Well,
to
that
look
we
into that.
approve each year. correct?
Yes.
We approve we
Right, and
approve
there's
council, but we don't approve
The person.
personnel outside of that.
I'm not saying we're approving personnel, I'm saying we're approving anything that would be, if we're hiring a consultant, we need to know beforehand that we're gonna be taking on that initiative to hire a consultant, because it's part of the budget. And we should be,
But he discussed it last meeting.
I agree that he did discuss it last meeting. I'm just asking, like, what's the update, what's the cost, to know those types of
Yep.
pieces of information.
Yep.
Otherwise, I don't want to be surprised later. Like, so for example, like some other grants that we pursued this year, Breathe for Change. I was caught off guard. I didn't know we were going for something like that. I'm not saying that it's not a great thing to have certain things.
That's two different, I think that's two different examples that don't correlate.
Well, again, those people gave professional development to our district. It was a big chunk of change. It is nice to be aware before we make a large investment what it will be. And I think it's important for this committee to be
I totally agree, but where do you draw the line, pal? This is the conversation we've had.
big pieces of money.
If we don't like what's
Consultants.
happening, then we need to let the superintendent know that, A.
Right.
And B, we put it in his evaluation if things don't change.
Right.
There's only so much that we are his evaluator. It's one of our #1 jobs. I know Corey was waiting, so I'll go to you.
So, my understanding would be, Mike would come to us and say, or Justin would come to us, or Kristen would come to us and say, we think we need a consultant for this particular issue, whatever it may be. It would not be on us to research consultants, to interview consultants.
And I'm not
It
saying
would
that
be
we
on Mike
would
then
be,
to come back and say, here's what we did, here's who we chose. right?
and I'm not saying we would research, interview them. I just want to be aware. I want to be aware of the price tag. I want to be aware of why they're the best. Like Mike just saying that this was a good cost and this person offered whatever services. That's all I'm looking for. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I don't hear that until after the ball has already run.
So to your point there.
Yes.
So we discussed it last meeting. What I would ask the superintendent to do in the future is if something does get implemented or he moves forward with something he talked about, that he adds it to his report and he updates us.
Yeah, I'd
'Cause
say.
to that point, you're right, we didn't get updated to this, he just did it, but I get what you're saying, it would, if we didn't bring it up, it might not have got talked about tonight. So to your
Yeah,
point,
I just,
that's something we'll ask the superintendent to do moving forward, if there's a discussion here that we're talking about something, and then it actually progresses to whether it's, you know, a consultant, or they make a, whatever it is, that he gives us an update. That's a fair point, because
Yeah.
we wouldn't have known if it just didn't get to this conversation. So, I agree.
and just if it's a dollar amount, if it's something that's gonna be spent, I just wanna be aware, and I think it's meaningful for us to have discussions that we're spending money in certain areas. Because we might say, we don't think at sometimes, we might steer things differently, you know? Not saying that the superintendent shouldn't have full power to do everything here, that he knows that's in the best interest, but I think sometimes when it comes to large chunks of money, you know, we really need to be reflective. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
And I know other committees, so for example, like Chelmsford and different people, before they do hire people, you know, things like that are considered. Like, what are the merits? What are, you know, the different people if you're gonna hire somebody? And there's a discussion there, is this the best person to go with? So when I saw things like that happening in other, you know, goals, I said, maybe we need to do a best practice as well.
Again, I think for certain things, I think for
Right.
council, that's probably a good discussion, if we're not, you know,
Mm-hmm.
satisfied with the services we're getting. Again, at this point, I think the superintendent talked about it, I think if we had more, if we wanted to dig deeper at the meeting, we could have asked some more questions, I'd have to go back and watch the tape.
Right.
I don't know how all the conversation went. I think moving forward, I think I will ask again for the superintendent to update us if he does move forward with, in this case, you know, securing a person to come in and consult us on the school improvement plan, district improvement plan. Being part of one of the last ones, I know we had, at that point, DSAC involved with us, because we were level 3 or whatever. So we did have some support, but I think it would be great, because we really want this to be a document that's gonna drive us for the next 3 years, and I'll have all our SIPs aligned with it, so to have somebody who's got some fresh eyes and some outside experience, I think is great. To your point again, I think there's, you know, some of us want to be more actively involved in that say, but again, that's what we have to allow him to do his job. I feel for me, at this case, that's his call. And if we feel it's a colossal failure after, it goes in his evaluation. You know,
So,
or we have a discussion with him about it. I mean, that's really our role.
and if I may, our last district improvement plan that I was involved in, went back maybe 2 or 3 superintendents ago. And key stakeholders were brought in for focus groups. So, you know, things like that, I don't know, again, we'll see, because Mike's gonna bring this forward to us, what the consultant is gonna offer. But things, you know, I wanna, again, ensure that certain things are happening, because I wanna give the voice to our constituents, and I want them to give their concerns, because then that would help us create a more meaningful district improvement plan, in my opinion.
And there's gonna be all,
Right.
a variety of stakeholders, you know, maybe they entertain sending a survey out before, like
Yeah.
saying, we have a committee, we won't be able to get all voices a part of it, but if you want some feedback, here's your opportunity, something like that, so,
Even if it's just a part of the personnel report that we receive,
yeah.
throw it on there. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. So when he talks about things and then moves forward with it as part of the personnel update, oh, and the consultant that we talked about for blah, blah, blah began on such and such a date, and,
That's a good point.
because it's just
All right,
to reinvent. We're
let me
good.
steer us back a little, so where are we at? So we are at, so obviously we're not gonna have a vote tonight, yes.
Just a question on your goals. You did not mention, or if you did, I missed it, 2C, this was with respect to the food service program. Is that being deleted, or?
Oh, thank you, Helen.
I think,
Yeah, I did
Sorry.
see that. Go ahead, Corey.
all of 2 is deleted, correct? and then we created a new two around
Yep.
assessment and data, so I think
Um,
that again, 2C
so
to me
just-
is a practice that's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
that's a common practice, right? Ellen, does that go in the, do we have the food service manager come in to give us a report?
She does, yeah.
Okay.
I think we've made great strides there. I mean, it's just my opinion. And we're continuing to.
Okay, so I guess, so again, the goal setting and objectives, we're gonna table the vote for tonight. The plan moving forward is for me to put a draft of what we captured tonight, share it with the committee. If you have any feedback, please just individually email me. And then we'll bring it, it'll be back on the agenda. Is the next meeting agenda busy?
The next meeting,
meeting.
all your new hires are supposed to come in, and the principals are supposed to give an update, or a little brief synopsis of who was hired in their buildings. If it's the committee's pleasure to do that again, as you did last year.
To meet the new hires. Yeah, I'd absolutely like to.
Oh, yeah, we took a little 15 minute.
That'd be September
recess.
12th, so that's a couple weeks in.
We're doing 1 or 2 schools at a time again, right?
I think they all
Doing
came.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Did we?
For the first one, I think we did everybody at the same time.
Did we?
After that, we broke them up for the reports to 2 schools.
I'm sorry, for meeting the new staff.
Yeah, I thought we broke it
I
up.
thought we broke it up to meet the
Maybe
new
we
staff.
did.
Because there was a
It could have been
lot.
Oh,
because
because
there
of
were a
that,
lot
sir.
last year,
Yeah.
there aren't many this year.
Yeah.
Okay, if you think we can do it one night, that's fine, but that doesn't take tremendously long.
Okay, yeah, so we can add that too. All right,
Can I backtrack for half a second?
yep, go ahead.
And this might have been under the academic and having the data and whatnot. Again, I think it was Nantucket, and we talked about it briefly. Student support. I think that that goal is very meaningful, especially looking at high rates of attendance for students. You know, having staff, retaining staff, participation of students through graduation. And then they have other things that are encapsulated in this in regards to rigor and giving support to students, high-quality programs, things that are comprehensive. I think that's kind of what we're driving at this year when we're talking about the tiered instruction. And again, I think, you know, we might not want to take all of this, but we were talking again about how the language, I know we weren't maybe super excited about some of the
Yeah, but some of
terms,
the
but
major
having that,
themes in it,
yeah, having that
Yep.
data and that accountability. So I don't know if we specifically said we were going to take this or not.
No, I made notes to add, to look at, so the academic 2A, which will be our goal, I made notes to look at Nantucket's
Goal
goal
two.
2,
I think that
and
fits.
just try to capture some language in that, yeah.
I
And
think
now,
the themes in here will fit under that.
Yeah.
so
Goal two.
what did you say? They were going to fit under R,
2A,
R2A? Okay.
which will be that assessment, but it's the academic piece.
Okay.
All right? All right. Okay, moving forward, subcommittee reports. Policy committee.
So we haven't met yet for this new year, but we are going to be meeting moving forward. And we did get all of our dates, and Helen was good to have that posted in the central office. And I didn't bring the date with me for our first meeting, and I don't know if Helen knows off the top of her head, but I don't recall. But it's coming up. So,
Yeah, maybe this year we can, I would assume that, and if we're not, on the educational channel, posting when our meetings are, but maybe we can post with subcommittees. We don't? Yeah, that would be great. Just have them running on the charter
yeah.
channel too.
But we do have, they are posted in
So we
the
have dates?
school department.
Okay.
But if we could have, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Helen, I think you do have them, our subcommittee dates posted on our school committee
Yep, I do.
page. She does have it up there.
Yeah,
So
that's
they
good.
are up there to
Yeah, so I'm
look
just
at.
saying, get it on the TV
Yeah.
channel too, so that. we can
But I
get-
don't have any updates at this moment.
Okay.
Looking forward to meeting.
DEI.
So DEI, we have not met. We have a date. I'm also unsure as to that date. I believe we're on the Wednesday, September 14th, second Wednesday, just for the first month. Then we'll be changing our meeting dates to whatever the group likes.
Okay.
So I have no updates, no report.
Excellent. Really, personnel and negotiations.
Negotiations are ongoing with the OEA.
Thank you. I was really disappointed I had another engagement, and I couldn't get here for this buildings and safety tour, so neither Molly or I were there.
Oh, I was there.
So a couple of our members did go. Is there anything that you want to share? I talked to Mike briefly after, but is there anything you both want to share? September 1st, or
So.
you're both anxious to say?
No, things that I saw last year have been fixed. I'm happy to see that. We have 3 out of our 4 buildings with leaky roofs, so we have ongoing issues with water stains, and I will shout out to Chafee School, whose principal made one into a sun, one into a rainbow, and one into a Yoda. So instead of saying water stain, there's lovely. But I think everyone works really hard to keep the buildings up. There are some things that I feel are beyond our control, whether it be physically or financially. I think that the town people, the town departments who were present with us, it's nice for them to see those things. We get into conversations. Mrs. Griffin did not take 450 pictures this year, which I was very proud of her.
I ran out of data on my phone. Thanks, space. I used all my pictures
and here
up.
I was proud.
I know.
Oh, man. I was like,
No more room
wow.
on my phone.
So again, nothing was a great surprise to me. Some of this stuff is ongoing. I was a little shocked at how much progression there was on some of the deterioration, most especially at Chafee, that whatever board outside. Nobody in town is denying that we need the work, which is great. But as I said, I thought the schools looked good. I've seen improvement. We still have things that need to be taken care of, but it was a successful day. We stayed on schedule, and like I said, nothing hugely surprising.
Good.
Nothing that jumped out that said, oh my gosh, we can't open because, some ongoing concerns that they're looking into and working on.
Yeah, and I know the roof is.
Foundation
So
roof.
that's,
Right, the oldest building we have is the only one that doesn't leak, which is kind of ironic,
go figure.
right?
Val, anything to add?
Again, I would echo, the roof and the foundations of our buildings are in tough shape.
Mhm.
And we have those SOIs out. But I think, some of our schools in particular need more work than not. Personally, when I walk around the high school, I worry. I look and I'm like, this is our youngest building, and some of the areas are the most concerning with the leakage that's happening. And I know we're trying to be on top of everything, but yet, even though we've had people come and do repairs, things still leak. And it's not like we're not doing things to fix them. We are taking action, but yet we still are experiencing leaks in certain areas, which is very disappointing to see for me. I give a lot of kudos and credit to Justin because he's been on top of our capital request and he has been making sure good things have happened. I was really pleased to see the new gym at the middle school. I thought that was amazing. That's definitely going to lift everybody's spirit and pride, and we did that last year at the high school. And I think we're doing things and to improve our school, but those big ticket items are we just can't do them without having some type of extraordinary relief from either the state or somewhere else. And they're the most meaningful, important as far as the integrity of our buildings, like the foundation and the roof. I mean, when was our roofs last, a whole new roof? Over 20-something years, right?
I'm sorry, which building?
Like all of our buildings, they're
Different.
they're pretty dated though, as far as.
So half of the high school was done in about 2016. The other half is original to the building, so 2002.
It's a long time.
The 2 elementary schools, again, half the building was done in about 2003. The other half was last done in 1990. Those are the 2 that we have the accelerated repair program SOIs out for. So we should hear on those in October. And middle school was done about 2013-ish, somewhere between 2008 and 2013. And we do have the warranty information on that roof. So, and that's one that is not leaking.
Right.
Compared.
We need to hire them again, whoever they are.
So, but it was a very productive day.
Thank you. Anything to share, Mike?
No, I thought it was great. The schools look ready to open. They're clean. They look good. Custodial staff did a nice job this summer. All 4 buildings.
All right, district accountability and curriculum.
No updates.
Okay, warrant report, Mrs. Griffin.
So I have 3 warrants this evening. An accounts payable warrant dated August 16th, 2022 for $68,067.13. A payroll warrant for August 18th, 2022 for $130,284.07. And an accounts payable warrant dated August 23rd, 2022 for $160,338.74. And that is all.
Thank you very much. Members forum, Ms. Cook.
I don't have much other than I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their summer because school's right around the corner.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Mrs. Forbes.
So I just want to go totally off track and congratulate the Oxford Webster Youth Pirate Cheer Association for a fantastic event they threw here on Saturday. Went over without a hitch. They're going to do good things with the money that they've raised, which will be good for everybody. And the community was very understanding and receptive. So big shout out to everyone that was involved with that. And then I just wanted to wish teachers, staff, students, parents, bus drivers, and administration good luck next week. It's going to be hectic, but it's going to be great. And I look forward to hearing all the positive changes.
Awesome, thank you. Mrs. Griffin.
I don't have anything for this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Burke.
No, just the same. Welcome back, everybody. Here we go.
Yep, ditto. Mrs. Forbes always does a great job, but, you know, students, families, staff, wishing you all a great first day. What is it? A week from tomorrow, right?
Week from tomorrow.
Wrapping up.
Yeah.
So, good luck to all of you. I think that is it from me. Final public comment. I do want to open the floor for final public comment. Close the floor. Is there any final business before we adjourn? Our next meeting is Monday, the 12th. If you have anything you want to add to the agenda. Oh, I do want to thank Selectman Moriarty and Selectman
Robert King.
For coming out. Also, Mr. Yule from the Finance Committee, and also who was from the DPW?
Mike Lucas.
Mike Lupus. Sorry, I should have had
Yeah.
that. That was in my, I want to thank you all for coming out. It's just great to have us be able to work together, for you to see, you know, what the buildings look like and the needs, and so thank you very much for coming out. Next regular meeting is the 12th. We do need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Any discussion? Call for the vote, Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin? Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I'm a yes, 5 yes. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.